Ulonka tabati yada to ye kuma da ifa. Inu to ye go jẹun love baby pa. Ọba tala ọba takuntakun. Ṣàngó Èṣù Ògún Ọya Ọ̀ṣun. Kíni ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ tán ṣe nílé yìí o. Ó jẹ́ lọ jára rẹ̀.
Alafia, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, OrisaGbemi, and today we are joined by the legend, the icon, the distinguished scholar, world-renowned Professor Kaba Haiawatha Kamene. Professor Kaba, peace and blessings, man. Appreciate you joining us tonight.
Alafia to you, my brother. Everything is excellent, and I thank you for this opportunity once again to speak to the community.
I appreciate it. That's what's up. So, man, I always love jumping back into the booth with you, man, because it's always a legendary conversation every time we do it. We still get comments and feedback, testimonials from the first time we did it, and each time we did it after. So I'm looking forward to see the impact that this one will have on the people too, especially now with all the things that's going on in society, and the critical shifts that I see. And it's a lot of symbolism going on with a lot of death to the old and birth to the new. So with that, I figure it wouldn't be nobody better to have that conversation with than you. So I definitely appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Not to mention all the time you spent with me since like 2016, 2017, man, since I first got the opportunity to chop it up with you and meet you and really, work with you. So I give thanks for all that, for all these years. And I'm looking forward to making it do what it do.
Yes, man. No doubt about that.
Yes, sir.
Looking forward.
So with the let's go with this situation with the Vatican. We see that there was a transition recently. The Pope, I guess, transitioned. I think Monday, and it's funny because that part's not funny. But what is funny is that I think you had just put that live up on IG about Easter. The origins of Easter. Yes. And I was having a conversation with my moms and telling her about the symbolism. How the all the holidays are really based upon pagan origins, but you know what I mean. They do what they do with them. They flip the script. So with that, what do you think about that with him transitioning, and then the Queen passed away a few years ago? That's like two arms of this three-headed monster that we're seeing, running amok across the globe. What do you think that means in regards to like where the planet's going as far as elevation and also like the symbolism between the holiday and what that particular person represented to this system that we live in?
Well, for me, I think that the key thing that we as African folk, in particular, have to begin to develop is an understanding that most of, if not all, that exists came from us. As I said in the Instagram Live, I don't have a problem with any holy book. I don't have any problem with the religion. I have a problem with the interpretation. When Indo-Europeans returned from the ice and came in contact with the melanated people of the southern lands, fundamentally Africans, but melanated people, they did not have what the people of the South had uninterrupted for thousands of years. And so they latched on to the civilizations of Africa, from whence all things came, including human life. But in many ways, they warped the writings. I can take any of the holy books, and I have studied comparative religions, and I have many of the holy books, be it the Abrahamic religions, Buddhism, Confucius, Zen Buddhism, Zoroastrian. So the challenge we have is not throwing the baby out with the bathtub, not just the bath water, the bathtub. And sometimes in our being mistreated by the people who claim to have developed these religions, we repudiate it. And what I say is to understand that they have contaminated a beautiful story, which when you go back to it, all of them come out of the Assyrian drama of Kush, what we today call Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, places like that. I can show you where the Old Testament and the New Testament came as it was copied from the walls of ancient Egypt, the papyri of our ancestors. I can show you that. Through the utterances on the pyramid text, the coffin text, the book of the coming forth today by night. And that this is what I do in the book Spirituality Before Religions. And so what we have to do, I think, is to interpret it from its as best as we can. Because our minds are not connected to the same computer that our ancestors who wrote it were. And so what we have to do is lay the groundwork and do the best that we can. And under those conditions, I want to thank Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. George G.M. James, Dr. Drusilla Dungy Houston, Professor John Henry Clark, if I haven't already mentioned his name, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Shashi McIntyre. What I'm saying is that every ancestor in every generation does the best they can with what they have. William Leo Hansberry back in 1923, the brother I wrote my first book on, he did the best he could with what he had. In fact, he took it to the next level. He did things that had not been done before. He taught his students about Ethiopia, and they drafted, the artists that were in his class drafted maps. They drew maps according to what he spoke of. He called it the Alpine people because of the mountains and all of the different ecological environments. Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop did the best that he could with what he had, and he did a phenomenal job. The same thing goes with all the other scholars. And those that follow behind these scholars do the best that they can in their generation with the information that's out there. Big controversy about what was the cultural background of the people that built the pyramids, the temples, the carvings. They were not the people that live there today. And I realized that they may want to claim it because they live there. But they came thousands of years after the Africans had already done it. It's just science. It's equivalent to peoples of European descent in 1,000 years from now want to claim they built the mounds of Cahokia or serpent mounds around the world. They didn't. They came centuries later. And so what we're dealing with is a people who have interpreted our work, and they are not grounded in an African Sun people philosophy. And so therefore they misinterpret through their interpretations what the utterances, the writings are saying. What you're dealing with Easter is an astronomical activity. When you think of the birth of the person we call Jesus the Christ in December, what you'll notice is that there is also another Abrahamic religion celebration that's called Hanukkah. Beautiful celebration. And then you have Christmas. So you have Judaism or Hebrewism and Christianity. Then now you have a Hebrew celebration and a Christian celebration that come very close together. You have to ask yourself why. You have Passover and you have Easter. Now, my question growing up as a Roman Catholic was always, like, the day you're born, the day may change, but the date will always remain the same. So Jesus Christ was born on December 25th. Okay. But why does the day he died always change? This year it was April 20th. Another year it could be in March. Another year it could be another date in April. Why? If he died on a day, just like when he was born, if you know that date, you ought to know the date that he died. It should stay the same. The day may change, but the date will always remain the same. It has to do with astronomy. The Passover, astronomically, is when the sun crosses over or passes over the heavens, and at a certain point, it is crucified. In other words, that's why you have the sun, the symbol of the sun in the middle of the cross many times. It's astronomical. We also have the Easter Bunny. So why would there be an Easter Bunny? What does the Easter Bunny and the Easter egg have to do with the celebration? Well, it has to do with the fact that you move into the constellation Aries, which is spring and rebirth. So the egg is born. The year is born in the egg when the sun is crucified in the heavens, and the rabbit represents regeneration, because all the jokes about how quickly the rabbits multiply.
Right. Listen, so, it sounds like some subliminal seduction going on there too.
And it's a beautiful story. But you see, our ancestors had no problem with that because they saw the act of a man and a woman in the embrace as a sacred activity.
Yes, sir.
And that, let's be frank, the feelings we get when we are in that, let's call it a clutch, is a godlike experience. That's why when we get to that moment of supreme exaltation, we call God's name. Oh my God.
Yes, sir.
Because we are recognizing. See, it's humorous, but it's very scientific.
Yeah.
Because what you're feeling is God. Because when a man releases his life liquids in the woman, he is performing the act that the cosmos did in panspermia. And when the woman receives that, and she then gets to that supreme manifestation of feelings, she calls upon the divine being within. It's a beautiful story. It's just that the idea of the male and female engagement was so horrendous in the ice. It wasn't the best feeling that African felt or the Sun people felt. And so as they moved through this feeling, this concept, the Africans created a story that was very open. It told a story of the beauty of reproduction and rejuvenation. Whereas amongst the ice people, it became something totally different. The idea of Heru being born of Aset with the one night that Asar was brought back into existence to copulate with his wife to bring forward Heru, carved on the walls, is a beautiful story. But when Indo-Europeans got it, the act of inseminating the woman, impregnating the woman, became an original sin, upon which baptism was conducted with the baby to wash away the sins of the parents.
That's crazy. Like the backwards bastardness in that scenario is absolutely nuts. That's crazy.
I asked God when I was a child, why did you get not an older, pre-teenager, when I understood
Yes,
what engaging with man and woman was. I wondered, why did God give us this relationship, knowing that the end result was meant to be a child, and then that act was a sin upon which the child had to be washed of the parent's sin. And then because of that, the woman was cursed by having to have a monthly cycle to bring forward the child. I have a problem with that story. Yet when you look at the African Asarian drama, it is a story of beauty and grace and dignity. The idea of hiding. You know what a lot of people may not realize is that, and this may not apply to everybody, it's according to your biorhythm. But for the most part, in a properly balanced world, the man and the woman engaged in the act during the day, when they were at their peak in their energy, not at night, when they had gone through the whole night, the whole day. And now they are not at their lowest point, but they're at the point when they're ready to go to sleep. And then the shame of the act that came out of Adam and Eve of eating the apple of knowledge, you perform the act in the dark. And it's not that you would promote other people watching.
Right.
It's just that your body's biorhythm is at its peak for the most part during the day. So that is when your body is at its highest point in reproduction. Now, again, I say that doesn't apply to everybody, but it does apply to enough people that the act should not come at the point where you're at your lowest physical point, and you should not be shamed to do it in the dark under the cover of night. But that comes from a different type of perspective. So my brother OrisaGbemi, we must interpret our own scripture for ourselves and hand it down to our children as a sacred legacy. And it's an act of beauty, not of shame. And the reason why you are being baptized is because you are returning back to the waters of Nun from whence you came.
That's it.
When Kunta Kinte held up Kizzy in Roots, held her up and said, behold, the only thing greater than yourself. That's what a baptism is. A baptism is when you return back to the source from whence you came. which is your waters. The man's waters is called semen. If you take the S off, which is the snake, it becomes Emen or Amen. Amen means the hidden waters of the Creator. In the woman, the baby is born in a sac. They took the E out after the M, so we don't know that what they call amniotic fluid is really amniotic fluid, which is the female hidden waters of the Creator.
Yeah, we just getting warmed up, family. We just getting warmed up.
It's a beautiful story, OrisaGbemi. It's a beautiful, phenomenal human story that should not be contaminated with an Ice Age mentality.
Can't do it. No, sir. Yeah, no, that's deep. It's really deep. And it brings me to some of the other topics that I want to jump into before we get into, excuse me, the main course meal. The difference in melanin, right? Shout out to Dr. Richard King, who did some phenomenal work with, the power of melanin. Not just that, but like the different connections to the black dot or to, the third eye or first eye, the mind's eye, whatever people want to call it, but then he also tied in kind of like the mind map between the significance between the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, and he went through how all of these different, sites and aspects of our mind and then also our consciousness kind of ties into who we are, but all of that is kind of activated on a much higher level with the infusion of the power of melanin. And so we know what you have in the book, Carbon Before Melanin, and being someone who I've seen several of your lectures where you speak about the significance of melanin, but also carbon as well. What is the difference between the melanin of a person of European descent versus a person of African descent, and especially when you factor in the neuromelanin? Can you kind of break that down into like how the difference between the two, types of melanin and how, our melanin is different with having access to the neuromelanin versus what the other folks have?
Dr. Richard King and another brother, brilliant brother by the name of Dr. Edward Bruce Bynum, in his work, Dark Light, in his book. To go back to understanding from what my study is, melanin just in general, you have to go back to neuromelanin. Neuromelanin is the melanin of the brain. When a woman's egg is fertilized by the man's spermatozoon is a singular sperm cell. Spermatozoa is plural. When that egg is fertilized as a zygote, it begins to multiply and it becomes a blastula. And then it sets itself into the uterus of a woman, and the development of the placenta, the umbilical cord, and of course the fetus begins. But what's important to understand is that when that egg is first fertilized, that cell, that single cell, that really is two cells, because it has the father's cell and the mother's cell both in there, begins to multiply. The life of that cell from its very inception has three levels to it. It has an ectoderm, a mesoderm, and an endoderm. The ectoderm is the outside. The mesoderm is the middle layer. And the endoderm is inside of the mesoderm. But in the ectoderm, it is rich in melanin. In time, that ectoderm will move within the cell itself. Neural tube, neural crest, all of that is created. And again, in my book, I I take you through the process to understand this. And what happens out of this coming in and beginning to multiply, you have this part of that cell that is going to become the brain, the spinal column, spinal cord, and it will become the gastrointestinal tract, your digestive tract. It'll become all of the organs and glands. But what makes that multiply like that is the neuromelanin. This neuromelanin now, as it begins to move across and become the fetus, and then it goes through its gestation of 10 months, because a baby is not 9 months, it's 10 months, it's 40 weeks. And 40 weeks is 10 months of a month of 4 weeks. The reason why they say 9 months is because normally women find out a month after they've been pregnant. And so therefore it's 9 months from the moment you find out you're pregnant. But the whole pregnancy takes 10 months. You have the neuromelanin in the brain, which also now differentiates itself, because now you have the melanin called eumelanin, or Eumelanin, eumelanin, eumelanin. And that eumelanin becomes the melanin that is in every organ and gland in your body. If you didn't have it in your heart, it wouldn't beat. If you didn't have it in your blood would not flow. Your circulatory system would not flow. If you didn't have it in your lungs, you couldn't breathe. Your respiratory system would go down. If you didn't have it in your reproductive organs, you wouldn't be able to reproduce. If you didn't have it in your immune system, you couldn't protect yourself. So that it's in every part of your body. The largest organ on your body is your skin. Your skin is part of a system. Like you have a respiratory system, you have a circulatory system, you have a reproductive system, muscular, skeletal. Okay, all those are systems. Your skin belongs to a system that's known as the integumentary system. Integumentary. I-N-T-E, G-U-M-E-N-T-A-R-Y, integumentary system. Maybe that's not an R. I-N-T-E-G-U-M-E-N-T-A-R-Y. Google it. Don't believe me. I don't want you to believe me. I want you to study this for yourself. If you want a book that will take you to that point of all, because I have a whole list of books in my book that will tell you this. Okay. Now, with people of African descent and with people of Indo-European descent, or let's just say Europeans, there is no such thing as complexion. It's fictitious to say your dark complexion or your light complexion. There's no such thing as complexion. No such thing as being dark-skinned and light-skinned. The term you use is you're melanated or you're not melanated. You're pigmented or you're non-pigmented. Pigmentation is not a complexion and it's not a skin color. It is the pigmentation in your epidermis that tells you who you are. And we as an African people, now hold on tight to this, because of Africa being such a large continent, Africans from the very beginning, as they traveled in the continent before there was anybody else on the planet, before Africans went into Asia, Europe, or America, or any place else, when there was only life in Africa, we had different complexions. I shouldn't say complexion, should I? We had different pigmentations. I use these terms so that our community can understand what I'm saying, because some of us may never have heard pigmentation before, or melanation. We use the term complexion or dark-skinned. We've never understood what the real terms are for us as a people. But we came in many different pigmentations, and our hair texture was different, because everything that deals with the organism, let's just use the human as an example, everything that deals with the human, we are what we are physiologically because of our relationship with the sun. Period. End of sentence. And for those that are in Southern Africa, that are not on the equator or where it's really hot all the time, you'll have people that'll be what we call potato chip brown, a lighter complexion brown, not a deep melanation. You'll have people in the northern part of Africa that will not be deeply melanated, will have less melanation in the skin. They'll be melanated. But also remember, in every people, there are people who are albinoids. There are albinoids in Congo. There are albinoids in Nigeria. There are albinoids all over the world. There's albinoids in China and in Europe. And basically that has to do with your melanin content in your liver or your kidneys. People are still doing research to find out exactly where that is. Vitiligo is a disease where you see people turning different colors. For instance, when they say that Michael Jackson had vitiligo. Okay. That has to do with something dealing with your kidneys or your liver in the production of melanin. Now it's time to answer your question. My brother OrisaGbemi.
Yeah, we here. Don't worry about it. We're going to patiently wait.
It is not that people of European descent don't have melanin. They do. Because if they didn't have it in their eye, they couldn't see. If they didn't have it in their ear, they couldn't hear. If they didn't have it in their respiratory system, they couldn't breathe. If they didn't have it in their circulatory system, their blood wouldn't flow. Not in the heart, your heart wouldn't beat. If you didn't have it in your reproductive system, you could not reproduce yourself. It's not about how much melanin you have. It's about the production of melanin. And because of the horrific conditions in the Ice Age, their ability to produce melanin specifically in the skin, which is the window and door that captures and attracts sunlight. Because of that, they are deficient. And in science, we don't talk about superior or inferior, good or bad. The scientific term is dominant gene or recessive gene. The more melanated your body is, the more dominant you are. The less melanated your body is, the more recessive you are. And so it's not so much if they have melanin or not. They do. They just, because of their bodily functions and what happens, they have a discrepancy in being able to produce it like a melanated person.
Ashe. No, that's deep. And I was
And
prepared
it's not
for
superior or inferior. Because if being melanated was superior, why are we in the position we're in today?
Look, that goes to a whole nother podcast that I definitely would love to get into with you when we talk about the those kind of like 1804, you know, in the Haitian Revolution, the ones that had to be eliminated first, the collaborators. You know what I mean? Because don't get it twisted. What they say, all skin folk ain't kin folk, but because it's definitely some, you know, that might have that melanin, but might not have that pure, you know, at heart, or that Iwa Pele or Ire, whatever you want to call it. They don't have that, so therefore, you know, they don't mind sacrificing their own because of selfish reasons, you know. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why we're in the situation we're in now is because of those types of beings. Yes, sir. So, yeah. So let me ask you this, Professor Kaba, because the symbolism in numbers, like, right? Numbers, they play a major role, just like symbols, kind of like with the hieroglyphs and the Metu Nature, right? So when we talk about this year and it being a 9-year, and can you kind of tie the correlation and significance between the number 9 as well as to like the deities of ancient Kemet, the Ennead, and then also with the serpent and the snake? Because all of those, I feel like, well, almost every culture, religion, or spiritual system has some sort of tie to the snake, right? Whether even we're talking about health with the staff or the medical staff, all that. But can you kind of tie into like where we're at right now on the planet in this day and time with the symbolism or the symbolic reference, or I should say symbolic meaning of the number 9, you know, when it comes to, you know, beginning and ends and all the things that are kind of tied to 9, even like 9 ether, for example.
Well, when you look at the number 9, it is a symbol. When you're looking at the number system that deals with the 9, okay, from 0 to 9, the number 10 doesn't exist. The number 10 really represents one set, 0 left over. So you've got your set of 9, or really 10 when you stop and think about it. If you start with 0 and end with 9, you have 10 numerals. But 10 isn't 10, as we would think. 10 represents one set of 10 and 0 left over. Okay. Musicians and dancers, they live in the base 4 system. Okay. They count 0, 1, 2, 3, and then they have one set, 0 left over. What is 5 in the base 10 system becomes one set, 1 left over. 6 becomes one set, 2 left over. In the base 10 system, you have 0 through 9, one set, 0 left over. 11 is really one set, 1 left over. 12 is one set, 2 left over. When you get to 20, it represents 2 sets, 0 left over.
That's deep.
21 is 2 sets, 1 left over. 22 is 2 sets, 2 left over. 30 is 3 sets, 0 left over. 31 is 3 sets, 1 left over. So what you're dealing with really is that, like when let's say I pass a sign, you know, with this lotto, where they give you those two, the mega number and the other number. Well, what I do is to keep my mind mentally fast, is I add them both together. And so let's say both of them, just for simplistic sake,
right?
Let's say both of them are 111 million. Okay. I add those two numbers. Okay. My bad. Let me go back. 1 million. Wait. Okay. Let's go with 11 million. Okay. Let's stick with a 11 million lotto. Both of them. I add them both together and I get 222 million. But I can add the 2, and the 2 and get 6. No matter how big the number is, you can always bring it down to the base 10 system.
That's crazy.
Just try it sometime.
Yeah.
When you pass that sign up there, I just did it for simplicity's sake.
I'm doing it in my head as you saying it. I'm trying to make sure, like, okay, am I getting this? But nah, that's deep. That's
deep. Add all those numbers. No matter how big the number may be.
Right.
You can always break it back. That you can always add and add and add and get back somewhere between 0 and 9.
Oh man, listen. I got so many things that be coming in my head, like the questions that be coming. I know we still got to get to the main course meal, but listen, It reminded me when we was in Miami in the shop that day after the event, when you was going in for like 12, 13 hours straight. I'll never forget that. And you was breaking down how numerically, like how the angles and like how the pyramid like resonates. I mean, how it equates to even numerology. I was like, yo, this is nuts. But that's deep. That's real deep. Like for real. Like that's deep because we look at everything that we've been taught here has really been purposely the opposite of what we should have been doing, or learning. Like even for example, learning education, being taught outside in nature versus being in the classroom where we don't have access to the sun, right? All those things like play a major role in who and what we are in our culture, like how we thrive in regards to that. So when it comes to like where we are now, we talk about this thing. I want to ask another question, but I don't want to go too far into it because everything you just said, it reminds me of like how you calculated the ancestors, the number of ancestors that we have. You know what I mean? And even like with the grand unified theory that, you spoke about with the video with you and Dr. Gabriel was Igbo about the grand unified theory of how you broke down how even God, like the universal prime creator itself, is broken down numerically. So it was like, that's extremely powerful, like extremely powerful.
Absolutely.
Even divination.
And what I'd like to do is just go back to your original question about the 9 and the times that we're living in now.
Gotcha.
The number 9, my personal opinion, this is a Kaba thought. Okay, it's based on my thinking as I've perceived the world. Dr. Clark said that the missing pages of world history is African history. He said the missing pages of African American history, the missing pages of American history is African American history. There's no way you can understand the world if you don't understand the role that Africa played. There's no way to understand America if you don't understand the role that Africans played. And while I pay homage and respect to the indigenous people, what they did, they had their land stolen from them. They, in many ways, taught the Europeans how to survive in this new land. But Africans built this country. They built it. The economic system that we're dealing with today was built by Black folk. When you go down to Wall Street and you're dealing with stocks and bonds, you're dealing with livestock in bondage. We were the first stocks and bonds. We were the livestock in bondage. We built this country. And the reason why they treat us the way they do is because they know that once they tell the truth, they're going to have to write some checks.
Speaking of checks and balances and truth, I don't know, I'm pretty sure you've got the update. Somebody who I'm not going to say you're the biggest fan of, but the same clown that was trying to ban the African history books down here in the state of Florida. I see he done got himself into a big old whole tizzy. Ain't that something about this thing called karma? Have you seen it?
No, man, school me on that.
It looked like he facing some sort of crazy charge with like embezzling or stealing or colluding like 10 million plus. That I guess he I guess what they're saying is he alleged to have stolen from some sort of charity or something that was supposed to be, going to children. I forgot. I don't really watch the news, but I did. Somehow I got access to that, and somebody told me about it. But yeah, he got himself in a little bit of a tizzy right now. So I guess the ancestors paid him a little visit. I guess I don't know.
Well, Brother OrisaGbemi, this all ties into the question you asked about the number 9. Because you see, karma, ma'at, in ma'at, the principles of ma'at, truth, justice, harmony, balance, order, arrangement. My favorite that I lean towards, characteristic of ma'at, is reciprocity. You shall reap what you sow. What goes around comes around. You will get what you give. And that is why if we, as proper thinking humans, believe that, would we treat other people the way we do if we knew that how we treated them would come back on us, sometimes sevenfold? Would we create the kind of society that's been created if we knew that that's the society that we would have to live in for the rest of our life?
Yeah.
And so when you're arrogantly ignorant, or ignorantly arrogant, however you want to look at it, you perceive the world that you're going to get away with everything no matter what, and nobody will ever make you pay your price. But my aunt says, no, that's not true. You shall reap what you sow. It will come back on you. Just the fact that you put it out, it's going to come back. You can call it echolocation if you want.
Yeah.
When a bat that's blind sends out its sensors and it hits the wall, it comes back and they know to move around.
Yeah.
The problem with them is that when they send their vibrations out, it don't come back to them and they end up crashing into the wall.
Yeah.
Look at them. Look at them. It sounds humorous, but look at what's happening.
No, that's why I'm laughing, because it really is crashing and burning. But like you said, you reap what you sow.
You shall reap what you sow.
No harm on nobody, but I also, am a student and a child of studying and researching, and I know what they have been doing, and the chaos and destruction that they've been wreaking havoc on the planet with for the last, 400, 500, 600 years or plus or more. So, it is what it is. As above, so below. As within, so without. What goes up must come down.
In fact, I would take your number back about 4,000 years. Because they came up out of those mountains 2000 BC and wreaked havoc on the world from that point on. And the southern world was in battle. I've got a 4-part series on the origin and development of the Caucasoid. I've got a 4-part webinar on my site that talks about this. And for me, it just becomes so important to understand that from the moment they came out of the ice, this has been what's going on. And it just becomes so important for us to understand this, that everybody talks about, I'm looking for the angel within. But sometimes I believe all humans have an angel, but in some of us, they done got that angel locked up in the ice, and they're cold-blooded, and they objectify everything and anything that they see. And because they had so little in the ice, their question when they come upon people is, what can you do for me? For us as African people, it is a person-to-person relationship, because we realize that the person-to-person creates the society, and then the society creates the nation. To the Asian, it is person-to-group. This is why when you see Asians working together harmoniously as they do, they may not stand each other, but the relationship is not person-to-person. It's not personal. It's the person to the group. And the Europeans' relationship worldview is the person to the material wealth. And in so doing, they objectify everything.
Yes.
And so when they objectify, have you ever worked with a person of European descent, and you're in the office and you're talking and you're just, it's just a great conversation. They talk about their children, you talk about your children, and everything's going well. And then you go out to lunch, and you see the same person coming towards you, and they walk past you like they don't know you.
Yeah. Yep. I've seen that and had that happen many times before.
Yeah, and see, I don't take it personal.
Me either.
Because I know that they objectify everything. When they're interacting with you in the office, it's like they're interacting with a chair or with a table.
Yep.
There is no human contact like with black. And see, that's why we take it so personal.
Mm-hmm.
Because we feel that they passed us because, okay, they could have other reasons why they passed us. But for the most part, the reason why they passed you is because they see you as an object. They see their women as an object. And if women don't see what they're doing right now, then you missed the boat.
That part.
Because they done told you what they feel.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something else that's happening as it relates to my book on melanin. And I told people this. The United States government is now finding a way to pay women $5,000 to have children.
I just heard that
In the New York Times. Google New York Times.
I just heard that today.
Okay.
I just heard that.
This came out the day before yesterday. New York Times.
Wow.
They're doing it across Europe. You know why? Because their numbers are dwindling. See, all this time, everybody thought they were the majority. But their numbers are dwindling. My study on this, I'll give you 2 books to read. One of them is called The Birth Dearth, Birthdearth, by Ben J. Wattenberg. Don't believe a word I say. Just check this book out. Birth Dearth. The other book is The Death of the West by Patrick Buchanan. He ran for president one time. Staunch Republican. And he's telling you their numbers are dwindling. Do you know they are paying couples money in Europe to have children? Because it's called DINK. DINK. Double income, no kids.
Mm.
Do you know how much it costs to raise a child? Well, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, I do.
How much it costs to raise a child? You see a young couple get together today and know that child, considering what's going on now, the life of that child, when you start thinking about all the Pampers, the food, the games, the schools, that you'll have to pay out, easy, with no question, $500,000. And who knows after this what will happen?
A whole lot more. Because even just the food alone,
yes.
You know, going to the grocery store, you look, I can't go without spending over $150 or more just for maybe a hand basket worth of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I can't even imagine that, you know, like what it's going to be going forward from now, you know, to raise a child, and especially in this corporation that we call
absolutely. And, you know, think about all of the other expenses, and not just the expenses, but think about all of the things that you will have to pay for that you didn't have to before, like health, like leave for mother's leave, father's leave. You won't get it anymore. Think about Medicare, Medicaid. And that is because they need to have children. And this is the problem with the challenges with people coming from other countries to this country. And you see, I'm always very concerned about calling them immigrants, because the people of Central and South America originally were here before they were pushed south by the Europeans. Because remember, before it was New Mexico, it was Mexico. And so it becomes important to understand who the real illegal alien is. According to who you ask, who the illegal alien is.
Shout out to Outcast Extraterrestrial. You know what? And before I forget, shout out to my my mentee I was telling you about, man, young King Sirius, man. Shout out to him. Very, very excited to work with this young king. And then just to look at the irony of his name and how powerful it is, man. Like in this day and age, in this time, I got to share with him a little bit about the significance about it. He knew what it meant that it was a star, but I got to share with him like how significant it is, you know, to us and our culture. I mean, in fact, I sent him the link to your video, the first one that I learned, you know, when you broke it down that Black people come from Sirius. I sent him the link to that one, and so he was loving it because he got to see like the significance behind, you know, his name. So it was powerful. So shout out to him. But real quick too, when we were talking about how I would feel like the distortion of how we see things and it's beautiful and we embrace it, whereas the people who came from the mountains see things and they make it all about destruction. When you're talking about the creation story about, you know, having birth and bearing children is a sin, right? I was studying some of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's work, and she broke down like the symbolism with even like just the phallus, how they took that and, you know what I'm saying, and created that to make it look, you know, that's where the gun came from, the concept. And then even like the bombs, the missile with the erect penis, whereas we use it as the phallus, like a Tekkenu, they use it as a bomb. So can you kind of tap into a little bit of how that?
Well, you know, back in the day, I worked with Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, dealing with children and curricular development, because she was a child psychiatrist. One of the most brilliant in the country.
Oh yeah.
And I used to share my work with her, and she would enlighten me as to how I could add things and take things away. So my curriculum that I've developed over the years, I always went to those whom I respected: Dr. Asa Hilliard, Dr. Amos Wilson, okay, Dr. Richard King, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Okay, these were some of the scholars that I work with that I shared my lesson plans with.
Yes.
To teach the children. The idea of the symbolism of what they do with how they present it in terms of the rifle and in terms of pulling the trigger is like ejaculation. Just like the bullet comes out the gun when you press the trigger, sperm comes out when your testicles are reacted to by whatever human and physical phenomenon you're going through. And the same thing with in that same book, she talks about the different sports and why all the brown balls are big and all the white balls are small.
Yes. Yeah. And then even football with the goalposts being, you know what I'm saying, symbolism to the legs of the woman, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And like, it's powerful. That is some powerful work.
Yeah.
Like, it really is.
So as we move through this is why I think that, you know, with your student that you're working with, Brother Sirius, and the younger brothers and sisters that I am working with, what I always tell them is, I'm right, but I'm not accurate. Just like I said earlier, that every generation does the best they can with what they have.
Facts.
I believe I'm doing the best I can with what I have, but the younger generations are going to make it better. They're going to have more information, but the more information they have is because they stand or they sit on our shoulders.
Yes, sir.
Just as what the work I do is, I'm on Dr. Clark's shoulders. Dr. Clark is on Arturo Schomburg's shoulders and William Leo Hansberry's shoulders. And so it becomes important that we realize that every generation takes this knowledge and wisdom to the next level. And this is why the crackdown is so severe now, because now they know it's over. Your time is up. At least as it relates to the American hemisphere, you've had a little over 500 years to get this right.
Didn't do it.
And you know, when you stop and think about the Bill of Rights, and then you think about all the amendments to the Constitution, there's more amendments than there are actual citations of what the rights humans have. Now you know you're in trouble, because what is an amendment? An amendment says, I'm amending a mistake I made. So every amendment really is a correction of an error of the original document. And so it becomes important that we look at, like for me, they say, you know, that they're not following the Constitution. Well, as a black man who was not represented when the Constitution was written, I want the whole thing written all over again. And they say, oh, you can't rewrite the Constitution. The forefathers wrote that. Well, hell, God wrote the Bible. You see how many times they revised that? So if you can rewrite the word of God, I know you can rewrite the word of old white men that are racist.
Yeah. Well, but you know, but that goes back to the significance of our ancestors, man, and you know, shout out to you and all the work that you've done that I've you know, standing on your shoulders, you know, working with, and that goes back to things being written in stone. You know, we talk about the Shabaka stone, you know.
Oh yeah.
On the Shabaka stone, of course, all the stones that it took to create ancient Kemet, you know, it's all the history is written in stone, and you're not going to tear down them walls, and you ain't tearing down them monuments. I can tell you that right now. So it's like you can deny the lie, but you can't hide the truth.
That's the bottom line. And that is the one thing that is permanent in the cosmos. You know,
Yes,
and that is what Dr. King meant when he said that the arc of the moral universe sometimes is long, but it bends towards justice, towards ma'at. There's only so far this will ever go before people say, no more. And it's so interesting that in their arrogant ignorance, they have yet to realize that every civilization that Indo-Europeans have created have lasted no longer than 500 years. Starting with the Persians in 525. 525, they went into Kemet, took it over. By 332, the Greeks overtook them. Then 332, Greeks were in there in Kemet. By 30 BC, the Romans were in there. Roman Empire lasted from 30 BC to about 426 AD. And then it fell. And then it took Moors to come in 710, 711, bring back civilization to save the children from killing themselves. From 711 until 1492, Africans ruled the world. And then, this is the civilization that was created out of what the Moors gave to Europe. And this Oman Empire is on its way out now. And every one of them fell for the same reason. And it's simple. It's what our chant was in the Black Panther Party when I was a cub. All power belongs to the people. And when you have a select group of people running stuff in their own interests and not in the interest of the people, it will only last but some level of centuries before it topples.
Facts. That's real.
That's history.
Yeah.
We can do numbers on that.
Oh, yeah.
525, okay, to 331. 525 to 331, 331 to 30, 30 to 426. Europe goes in the Dark Ages through the 400s, the 500s, the 600s. Visigoths and Vandals are in Europe, Spain, Portugal, Germanic tribes, Visigoths and Vandals. The Ostrogoths, cousins to the Visigoths, they go into Italy and down the Italian boot, go across into Greece. Africans see them over there and they say, oh, no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So the Africans send in a reconnaissance team led by Tarif. Tarif comes back, reconnoiters, tells his general Tariq what he sees. July 7/11, Africans go right into Spain and Portugal and take it over. It's called preemptive strike in military science. Before you get here, we're going to go there. So from 7/11 until 1490, and then you see what happened was that they expanded out into other parts of Europe. But they were repelled. But not only were they repelled, they really didn't want to be out there because it's too cold. So they came back down. And when you look at Al-Andalusia, which is part of Portugal and Spain, you'll see that their northern boundary was a diagonal mountain series known as the Guadarrama Mountains. Everything south of Guadarrama was smooth. It wasn't cold. It was nice. Everything north of Guadarrama was cold. So Africans said, no, I don't want that cold.
Me not take me what no rude boy, I see it.
Hey, yes,
I know that's right. Wow.
Okay, so that's how that happened in terms of looking at where we are today. And I hear people talk about Nazi. I hear them talk about autocrat, oligarchy. What I tell people to do is Google the word feudalism. Feudalism is the godfather of all of these different systems that have been created. They're all the same. You know how they said in The Exorcist, when they were talking about the multiple forms of the devil, and the elder priest told the younger priest, no matter how many manifestations you see of the devil in that room, there's only one devil in the room. They may come to you. They may come to you like your mother.
Yeah.
They may come to you like your lover. They may come to you like your child. But no matter how they come at you, there's only one devil in that room, and they're going to come at you with what they believe most best pleases you. So they'll break down your immune system against them. They'll promise you the one thing that you want more than anything, and they'll study you. And they'll see what turns you on and what turns you off.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you what you need to hear until they get what they want. Just look at what's going on.
Yeah.
You can see.
Especially with this technology. With this technology, they're definitely doing that. Like,
they will lie in your face. They'll tell you everything's going to be all right. And you want that? Yeah, I'll get that for you. Vote for me. I'll get that for you. Vote for me. Yeah, I'll set you free.
Yeah.
And then when you vote for them and they get in, then they put double chains on your arms because now they know you pissed at them for lying. Just know whatever come out their mouth is a lie. You'll never go wrong that way.
Yep. It's funny.
See,
that was
this
one
is
of
the world that we're living in because it's over now. It's ending. This is another level of the destruction. Everything that they do, all power belongs to the people. Demokratia, where the word democracy or Democrat comes from, it means people power. Republica, where the Republican Party comes, it means for the people. I ain't seen none of that up here. They'll tell you it's for the people. Right. They'll tell you that the laws you live by is of, for, and by the people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But it's of, for, and by rich, white, male people.
That part.
This is just the way it is. This is the way it has been since they have been in control. It's up to us.
Yeah.
To educate our own. You know, I know everybody's a little upset with education and about what's happening in education. I'll tell you, I don't have a problem with it. Because first of all, I know for a fact they never did it right, even when they were told to do it. And you know, when somebody does a good thing wrong, it's worse than if they never did it at all.
Wait, can you say that one more time for the people in the back?
Okay.
That's deep.
I did staff development in Florida.
Yeah.
I did staff development in Broward County. Dr. Asa Hilliard and I worked in Broward County for close to 5 years. He worked with the administrators and I worked with the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was attempting to develop, not all, but the teachers that I work with, I ended up wishing I had never taught them this in the first place.
Wow.
It is better to not be taught something than if they taught something to you wrong. Because if you don't know it, it's one thing. But if you know it wrong, it's worse. It's up to us.
That's facts.
It's up to us to teach our children, educate our children. We have to get into the system. I'm on a crusade to get young Black men in particular, but women too.
Yes,
but
sir.
see, we have so many sisters in the system of education already.
Right.
We need brothers in to complement them.
Yes, sir.
You know, when I first started teaching back in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
I taught in a school where we had teachers, particularly sisters, that were called crackerjacks.
Mm.
Crackerjack teachers are the type of teacher that when another teacher's in the room, children are going buck wild. But when that crackerjack teacher, that sister, walks in the room, everybody shuts up. And all of a sudden, the child that's still messing up realizes everybody's quiet, looks up, sees that teacher in the front of the room. They sit right down, don't open their mouth. That teacher didn't have to raise the voice, didn't have to yell, didn't have to threaten. Her mere presence demanded respect.
And that's what the universe and the planet Earth is doing right now, as our cosmic mother and our planetary mother, Mother Earth, is doing the same thing. So guess what?
Right.
The ones that was acting the fool, cutting up, they're on an island unto themselves, and they up out of here. So yeah, there's that.
That's right. That's true. Those sisters that we call crackerjack. Now, that may not be a term people like, but that was just a term for those types of teachers. Okay.
They're cracking back.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Okay. They had respect for me as a young teacher. They liked my flow. They respected where I was coming from. They knew my heart. And they took me under their wing. And they taught me a lot about teaching. And I realized that and this was one of the things that they used to tell me, is that all we need is for Black men to be men in the system and be that balance for us. And that's what I've always attempted to shape my experience in education to be a complement to our sisters, but to be a man to our children, to see a man that's not yelling at them, screaming. You know, I have never called a parent in all of my years of teaching. Never called a parent when the child was acting up. I never put a child in punishment. Never put him in after school. Because I used to sit with him. And I used to say, I know if I call your grandma or your mother, she's going to come in and she's going to whip your butt.
You know it.
I know that if I give you demerits and you have to go to after school, there's something I'm doing when someone else besides me, as your teacher, needs an outside force to get you right. I'm preparing you to go to prison. Because if the reason why you obey what I say is because I'll call your parent, or because I'm going to put you in after school. I'm teaching you to do the right thing because you're afraid of what will happen if you don't do the right thing. You need to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Okay? Now, I was teaching them the laws of Ma'at. I didn't say it because at that age, they might not have understood what I was saying, but those are the laws of Ma'at: truth, justice, order, arrangement, balance, harmony, and will go around, come around. Because the other thing I always told my children, I say, look, what I'm telling you right now, I'm telling you out of respect and love. You are not conducting yourself properly. You got to get it right. You got to straighten up and fly right. That's what Nat King Cole used to say. Straighten up and fly right.
No, that's right. Yes, sir.
Now I said, nature, life is going to teach you.
Yeah.
You're going to learn it the easy way, or you're going to learn it the hard way. If you listen to me and you just adjust your ways, that's the easy way. But if you don't listen to me and you got to learn the hard way, the result may not be something that you want. I had a student when he was in kindergarten. I was an assistant principal at this time, but I had him, his brother, who was older than him before, when I was a teacher in the school.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to talk to him all the time. His mother was a heroin addict, but she really loved her children. And the teacher called her in because of his behavior. And so she came in, and the teacher told me what had happened. I said, okay. And so the principal asked me if I would handle the meeting. And so I was the one in the meeting representing the principal as the assistant principal of the school. And when mother would talk to me in this meeting, she would nod out. You know, she would, her head would go down, she'd nod out. And then I would look at the young man and I would talk to him. I said, you know, your mother loved you very much, man. And you know what you're doing to her is making her have to come in, and it's creating not a good time. I said, man, I know what you must be going through. Okay. And so I just want you to understand, you got to do the right thing, young brother. You got to start acting right so mother doesn't have to come in like this. And so that you can get through what you need to go through. Okay. This was years ago now. This was in the early 80s. Now, let's go back, or let's go forward. And I'm downtown Manhattan, and I hear somebody scream my name. And I turn around, and here's this student. He's like about 22 now. And he comes and he hugs me. I swear he was going to break my back. He hugged me so tight. And he said, I want to tell you something. He said, I just got out of prison. He said, my mother passed away, went to prison. And he said, but through the years, if you ever felt a strong feeling that someone was calling you, I used to scream your name in prison. Because I remembered all those conversations we had when I was in kindergarten and first grade. I remember the things you told me. And he said, now that I am where I am, I know what you meant. And he said, you know, I'm down here because I'm going for a job. He said, I'm going right now. But he said, now that I see you, I think I'm going to have a good job interview. I think that this is a good sign for me that I'm going to have because I used to call your name when I was in prison. Brother Booker T, because that was my name back then. Brother Booker T, this is what we're facing in our educational system. And as a brother that was a teacher, as a brother that was an administrator, as a black man in front of those black children, I represented something. And I want the young brothers to understand the impact that you have with those young people. I want you to become teachers. I want you to carry the legacy of showing what black men can do when they're on the right track. You need to compete with the gang members, because that's who they see. Because gangs are created in the hallways of middle schools. Because in middle school is when all of the roughnecks get kicked out of class, and they're all in the hallway, and they're all in a line. I know, because I was in middle school and I see them. And I used to bring them all into my room because it was better than being in the hallway. Because I knew that those same students would go to their zoned high school. And in their zoned high school is when they search for them. They search for all the disillusion, and they say to the young, hey, man, meet me in Popeyes or meet me in McDonald's. Are you hungry? Yeah, I'm hungry. What you want? I want Big Mac. You like fries? Yeah, I like fries. Supersize it. Okay, you like these sneakers? Oh, yeah. Okay. I got you. Take them to the store, get them sneakers. That's the gang leader.
Yeah.
But you know who that gang leader is to that child? Daddy. What that gang leader did is exactly what daddy does to his son and for his son. Feeds him, clothes them. And out of that comes the legacy of devotion.
That's it.
And this is why some of the most powerful people in our community, the two greatest organizations in the black community, is the gangs or the church. Because the gang leader is as much a pastor to his flock as the pastor in the pulpit in the church. Maybe different agenda, same procedure.
Same influence. Exact. That is profound. It's so simple but so powerful, because I've never saw or heard that concept put together like that. But that's exactly what that is. That's dope. Because they both.
I was there in the Bronx, man.
Yeah, influence. You seen it. You seen the real.
Oh, I walked the streets.
Bumpy.
I associated with the gang leaders. I knew them. That's how I know what's going on in the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up in a project. My backyard was Hell's Kitchen. My front yard was home. And either way I went, I saw certain things on the street. And I think that is what I bring to the teaching experience, because I have room to understand the dynamics of what's happening in our community. It's not it's not black or white, it's gray. You have to understand that when a child comes into your classroom and is acting up, one of the first things I want to know is, did you eat breakfast?
I saw it today.
First thing I want to know is, did somebody beat you up this morning?
I saw it today.
It's gray, brother. It's not black or white. It's gray.
Yeah. And
as someone who has come from that background, that street, to understand in the project that I grew up in, and I think this was the greatest effect that Malcolm had on our people, because he was there. He grew up in a household where his father was dead, wasn't at home. Mother was put in an asylum. He was put in a home, spent all his life in a home, broke up his family. And he went through the trials and tribulations of a young black man in America in a far worse time than we have, but grew up during those times and was able to move through. I didn't quite have the life that Malcolm had, but I certainly have an understanding of what it's like to come from the community and to feel for our children. I remember when Heron came into the projects. I remember my friends that we used to always play now would sit off on the benches with groups of people that we didn't necessarily hang out with. I see them as I grew. I saw them and I saw where they were going and I saw where I was going. And, you know, my brother OrisaGbemi, by the grace of God, there could I have gone. By the blessings of all, my life was intercepted by other brothers and sisters and adults that brought me up to meet Dr. Clark, that brought me to Black Panther meetings as a young cub, that brought me to the Nation of Islam on 116th Street that used to be Malcolm X's mosque. I was blessed by having people taking that extra time in my life, the kind of work that you're doing and the impact that you're having with Sirius and the other young people that you come in contact with. We have to make a decision of what we're going to do. And I don't blame nobody for the condition I find myself in. Not that I don't know what they did to get me here. I know what they did. My problem is if you blame somebody else for the condition you find yourself in, you give them the power to get you out of that position, but you also give them the power to keep you in that position. I am the master of my fate. And if I don't succeed, it's because I chose not to succeed. Not because someone else stopped me. Nobody can stop me. And that's what I tell young people. Don't look outside yourself to determine how you're going to make it. Don't even depend on somebody else outside of yourself. If you do come upon people, that's good. I had people help me all my life. But I wasn't looking for them. But maybe because I wasn't looking for them, they appeared.
Ashe. That's powerful. That's powerful, man. Listen, the energy is I love it, man, because my theme for like the last 2 weeks, and before I even get into that, shout out to Baba Effunyemi, shout out to the Beiji twins, Kabiesi Shango and Ogun, powerful brothers. Shout out to Mara that came through these last 2 weeks to help me, you know, with the young kings. And it's like they've been some phenomenal conversations, you know, and it was just like, you know, my message to them was the first week I think we did leadership, and of course none other who I would have as the topic of discussion is the Honorable El Haj Malik El Shabazz. So it was like I told them, like, for me, you know, being somebody who came from a similar background or who was in the mix of that, you know, I'm blessed to be here today, you know, just to speak on it, but to be able to see the impact of how you can have that influence going in the wrong direction, depending on your actions, your decisions, but you can kind of reverse it and flip the script to then bring it back to do it the opposite. And I promise you, it's so organic how this is happening, because the moral to the story was y'all might be coming here like Detroit Red, but my goal is to make sure that when you leave here, you leave as the Honorable El Haj Malik El Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X. And it was just dope because everything fit right into like what we're talking about now. And the way Spirit would have it, I wish I would have thought about this part, because this would have been even more, I feel like, symbolic to me. But it reminds me of Kepra, the dung beetle, the one who rose, you know what I'm saying, out of a ball of dung to spread his wings and fly, you know. So it was dope. It was dope. So it's like just to kind of feel it all happening in synergy. It's like, yeah, the ancestors is here, man. This is it.
Absolutely. You know, Ilyasha Shabazz wrote a book, The Boy Who Would Grow Up to Become Malcolm X. It's a children's book.
That's his daughter, right? One of his daughters.
His daughter, yes, that's his daughter. Okay. Ilyasha Shabazz, his daughter.
That's what's up.
Wrote a book. And I assigned that book to my college class because I taught a course on Malcolm X for 11 years. I taught a class on Malcolm 22 times. And every time I taught it, I learned more about it.
Yes, sir.
I thought as a student of Dr. Clark, I knew Malcolm. I thought as a friend of Earl Grant, who was Malcolm's friend at the end. In the movie, the brother that Malcolm hugs at the end, that's Earl Grant in real life. And Earl Grant used to come to my presentations, and I would go to his photograph. He was he was in the microwave technology. He was a scientist.
Wow.
And one of the things I do when I teach parents how to read to their children, the first thing we do is look at the back cover and the front cover. And why do you think that's what's on the cover? We do an analysis, a critical analysis of the photography or what the front cover and back cover look like. On the back cover of the book that our sister Dr. Ilyasha Shabazz wrote, she has a picture of a butterfly. And I always ask my students, of all of the visuals that she could have put on the book about her father as a boy, and the front cover of the book has this little handsome little boy looking up, okay, not at the book, but looking up. And on it looks like he's sitting on the windowsill. I don't quite remember the scene right now. I just know he's looking up, and I know on the back it's a butterfly. And it makes me think about what you said about Kepler. Why a butterfly? Why would it be a butterfly? And that's because one of the most phenomenal things about Malcolm X's life is one of the most phenomenal things about your life, my brother OrisaGbemi. It's one of the most wonderful things about my life. It's one of the most wonderful things about all Black people life in America and in this hemisphere. And that is the act of transformation. You are born as an earthbound caterpillar. And your job is to find the kind of tree you need to be around to eat the proper leaves to be able to spin the proper chrysalis or cocoon. And it is upon your wise choice of trees to be around that determines the strength of the leaves that you're going to be eating. And if you eat the proper leaves, you will be able to spin the proper chrysalis that will allow you to become a most powerful butterfly who no longer is earthbound, but is now flightbound. And no longer do you eat leaves as a butterfly, but the sweet nectar of the flowers. That was Malcolm's life. As short as it was, that was his life. His transformation from Malcolm X, let me back up, from Malcolm Little to Detroit Red, to Malcolm X, to El Haj Malik El Shabazz, but finally as the son who returned home. And we always have to realize that that book was so powerful as it relates to the life that we live as people. And we don't realize how blessed we are and how powerful we are. Because for me to be sitting here considering when I think back on my background, see, because I wasn't born like this. I became like this. Kepra, the dung beetle that eats dung, cow dung, puts her eggs in a ball of dung and rolls it in the sun. And baby dung beetles eat through the egg, through the dung to the light of day. Transformation. How many times when people be giving us all these problems and saying all these horrible things, we say, I don't feel like eating that shit. They're always making me eat shit. Well, that is the dung beetle. But the beauty of that, when you eat dung, which is the refuse of the world, everybody piles their defecation on you, and that's what you have to live by. Just as they did on the plantation, they gave us all the worst of foods. But in our sisters and our brothers, but particularly our sisters' genius, they made that food a delicacy, a gourmet, that even the Japanese don't come to New York and don't eat at Sylvia's Soul Food Restaurant. They gave us dung, but we transformed it into the nectar of flowers. Whatever they did, we made it better than anything they had that they thought was good. Our food tasted better than the food that they ate. And they had the best of the pig, and we had the pig feet. We had the chitlins. And we made it a gourmet. Come on now, we got to understand who we are as a people.
Bon appetit.
That's it. Bon appetit.
Yes, sir.
That's who we are.
Yeah.
Can't help it. Don't hate us because we beautiful.
Yeah, boy. Listen, say it loud.
Kepra. Dr. King told us that your character is not built during times of comfort and convenience, but during times of conflict and controversy. The greatest lessons I've ever learned in my life was when I was having the most difficult times. The greatest things that I remember is that when you find your weakness, you find your strength. So don't always curse your weakness, because your weakness gives you a chance to find your strength. Because any weakness that you perfect becomes a strength. And it becomes stronger than your strengths before you strengthen the weakness. We've lived that all of our lives. And that's why they do to us what they do to us, or they at least try. Because you see, there's nothing they can do to stop this from happening. Bob Marley say, have no fear for atomic energy. None of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We have to fulfill the book.
That's it. Man, listen. Yeah. We didn't even hit the doggone topic yet, man. I don't know if you got enough time. Yeah, I got time if you got time. Look, I got time today. Because there's a lot going on. There's a lot I got to say. But I want to bring this comment to the floor real quick, because this is something that I started out the show, giving you homage, man, and just giving, appreciation about, the impact and influence on the channel. But yeah, at Shakita, I think you might remember her when you think he was on here the last time. But she said she wanted to give thanks, for the last show because of what the jewels you dropped about the symbols. And she said that it's kind of like really opened up a whole nother door and answered a lot of questions, and brought a lot of things to light, for her in regards to, her life and her experience. So that's kind of like what I was referencing when I was like, the people still, the tribe still, showing love and appreciation from the first one we did, let alone each one after. So, I was like, she was like, at the end, she was like, nah, you put, I just came in, I thought I was going to sneak in. I'm like, nah, we got to bring them flowers to the floor, man. We got, we got to let Professor Kaba know what it is. For sure.
I appreciate that, Chachita.
That's what's up.
Because when doors open, we just come to realize, because we've always been in the house, the door just wasn't opened. And sometimes when somebody directs you to a door to open it, it opens, and you could probably say things that I can't, because my observing that book comes from my perspective. Your observing the book comes from your perspective. And there are so many answers to questions that we've had as a people, as individuals in our lives. This is our time. And I know for all that we're looking at, it may not seem like that. But this is our time. This is the anointed time for us as a people to rise. I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is Dr. King was right. We are going to make it to the promised land. That's the good news. The bad news is, in my observations of people's choices of priorities, a lot of us ain't going to make it. You got to be in it to win it. And this ain't no game out here. Nature does not accept excuses. Nature understands reasons. But the one thing I've come to realize is that life, when you're born, deals you a deck of cards.
Mm-hmm.
And your life are those cards.
Mm.
I have known people that have been given a very bad set of cards.
Mm.
And I've known people who have been given a very good hand in cards. I have known people that have been given a good hand and lost the game.
Mm.
I've known people that have been given a bad hand of card and they won. So I've come to realize it's not the hand of cards you've been given in life, it's how you play them.
That part. Mm. Yeah, that's real. And I think a lot of people, I love that you said that, because a lot of people don't look at life like that. And I feel like that's having that victim mentality, you know what I mean? Or self-doubt and self-limiting beliefs, because I shared this story too, you know, when I'm speaking to the young kings. It's like, I started out one class where I started out with a quote that was, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. And I literally shared the story of how I got the opportunity to meet you, because I came all the way from Tampa down to Miami to the event at down at, I forgot, with brother Khalid. And when I got there, he was like, yo, I think I had set up, I had got a vendor booth. I was promoting Star Seeds. And when I got there, the dude who they hired as the videographer didn't show up. So I had my camera with me because I was like, yo, if it's cool, man, I would love to get some footage of Professor Kaba. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my teacher, man. I want to capture that, whatever. He was like, yeah, that's cool, no problem, brother. All right, cool. But then later on, he doubled back when the dude never showed up, the one he hired. And so he was like, hey, brother, he was like, man, if you don't mind, you think you'll be able to record the whole event, you know, give us, you know, a copy of the event, and then, you know, I'll make sure I personally introduce you to Professor Kaba. I was like, yo, that'd be dope, bro. I said, I got you. And so I say all that to say, long story short, I was prepared just to come and try to capture some footage. But because somebody else wasn't ready to play their hand right, I was able to drop that big joker on them and boom, let me get that. I'm ready. I'm here. Let me get this footage, because that was how I ended up doing the interview with you when we were talking about Star Siege, which wasn't even out yet. But because I had the flyers of it, and I was able to show you that I was promoting it, I had already written it. I was waiting for it to come back from the printing company. I'm like, yo, you inspired me to write this book. So it was like I was prepared for the opportunity. And so I was sharing that same experience with the young kings. Like, yo, you got to be prepared, because you never know what opportunity might come your way. And if you're not prepared, that could be something that could have changed your life. You know what I'm saying? For the good or for the bad. So it's like, these are the things we got to start to ingrain in our head to take on life and look at life every day. And it's just like playing spades. Like, just because I got a bad hand last game, you know, so don't mean I'm gonna come out with a bad one this one. But even if I do get a bad one, if I know how to play the game, I still might mess around and come out with the W. Yeah. So it's like, that's real.
It's like very real, brother. And you know, and just our existence as a people in this part of the world proves that.
Yeah.
In this whole hemisphere. The fact that we're still here really is a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of all of the things that could have happened, that did happen, and how we were able to turn it around in our own way. The innocent did pay the price. There were some that did jump over to be eaten by sharks. There were those that jumped over and drowned. There were those that were mistreated and died. There were those that died of hunger and all other sorts of atrocity. But then there were those that remained. There were those that survived. And out of them, they left a legacy of exactness. And this is how I know that literacy has its place, but it's not what sustains you. It's not the strong that survive. It's not the survival of the fittest. It's the ones that can adapt to new ways that survive. And as a people, we've been able to survive throughout all of this. See what's going on now? You hear everybody saying, what happened to democracy? What happened to Black folk have never known democracy in America. We've lived what they are just about to experience for 400 something years. Okay? The law never applied to us. What, you gonna sue me? Dred Scott told you about that. I think that Black folk need to start an organization and start a consulting firm. How to handle the times you're about to live in. Because we handle our time. We know what's coming. Everybody talk about Medicaid and Medicare. Whoever took care of Black folks' health?
That part.
Talk about the food is going to be raised. We're going to pay more for food. They've raised our food in our neighborhood for as long as we've been living in the neighborhood. We've lived America 2025. We lived Project 2025. In fact, they probably copied what they did to us in Project 2020. When they first said that this is called Project 2025, I said, where that located? That sounds like the projects that I grew up in. Project 2020, that sounds like the Amsterdam projects. That sounds like Morrisania houses.
That's all you got?
What's this?
Oh, man.
Project 2025. Damn, that sounds like the book that George Washington wrote for Black folk.
Oh, man, listen. What they say, it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun, boy. Happy Easter.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
boy.
We can make a lot of money teaching them how to survive what's about to happen to them. See, because this is not us right now. This is not our battle. We're in the middle of it because Black folk are in the middle of everything.
Right.
But the reality of it is, this is what's called the Hatfields versus the McCoys.
Yes,
This
sir.
is the ancient war they had when they were up in the ice against each other. This ain't nothing but bringing a northern mentality down south. This ain't our war. This is them. This is 1861 all over again. All we got to do is get ourselves together and keep on keeping on. Okay? Western civilization has the clock. Black folk got the time. So every morning that you wake up, you're winning. Every morning a Black person wake up, even if you wait until the light turns red to go out with a cup and ask for $1, you're winning. The fact that you're alive, you're winning. Something that you said earlier, perfect your craft. That's what Dr. Clark used to always tell me. Perfect your craft. Whatever you're doing, do it better tomorrow than you did it today, and do it better today than you did yesterday. Perfect your craft. That
Yeah.
is a plantation mentality. Because if that got us off the plantation, this will get us out of the projects.
Mm.
Keep on
Yes,
keeping
sir.
on, knowing it ain't over till we win.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Man, when I think of our ancestors,
I feel them. When I tell you I feel them, like to the point where I'm having flashbacks when I was walking through the dungeons on the Ivory Coast. I was walking through Elmina, and I promise you, I was like, when I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah. I said, yeah. I just went into immediate prayer mode. I went so hard with them prayers. Like, I mean, I went in. I went in with everything I had. Boy, I felt the energy of the ancestors. I felt their spirits. I felt the horror. I felt the treachery. I felt everything. I felt it. And I prayed to him, and I felt like I was T'Challa and Black Panther, because I took all that pain I felt, just like that suit when he absorbed it, and he took it, and then when he needed to use it, that's what I did with them prayers, and I gave it everything I had. And boy, do I feel like I see them prayers. They here. They are here. And I'm like, yep, here we are.
yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're here now.
It's powerful,
Well,
brother.
yeah. So, yeah, all right. I need to take a breath. But yeah, so now let's get to the topic of the situation tonight. We was talking about before the beginning began. You talk about having some fun. We are almost 2 hours in. We just getting to the topic.
Well, didn't you say before? Remember your program before was called the Supper. The
Food
Supper
for
Club.
thought. Yep,
Food
food
for
for thought.
Okay,
Yep.
and didn't you say before we get into the main meal, we're gonna do this? Well, this was all the appetizer, brother. Now we're gonna get into the main meal.
Yeah, boy. Look, and I got to bring back that content, because a lot of that stuff from then I haven't even shared on this channel, and this is the channel for it. So I'm gonna bring that back too. That's from
Yeah,
the
man.
appetizer.
Yeah, man.
That's from the appetizer, because we've
Yeah,
been
man.
doing this.
It's always good to do flashback.
Yes, sir.
To track the progress of where you've gone, just like Malcolm X with the butterfly, the transformation, the growth
Yes. Yep.
of where you've been, where you are, and where you still have yet to be.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's real. It really is. I feel like I don't know if you've seen that movie back in the day. Oh man, I think it was called Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and it was a karate movie. But I liked it. It was a dope movie. I was little when it came out. I was probably like 4th, 5th grade, something like that. Maybe, I don't know. But it was a cool movie. But I just remember it was a part in like the main event when he was fighting, and he was fighting like the giant of the tournament. It was called the Kumite, I think. And he was fighting the giant and like this big Asian dude, big stocky, like football linebacker looking dude. And I remember the dude cheated. The Asian dude, he cheated, and he threw like some stuff in his eyes. And so Van Damme had to fight him blind. And so when he was fighting him blind, he kind of tapped in. And this is dope how spirit working right now, because what he did, he tapped into like that third eye pineal gland energy, where he was able to kind of, you know what I'm saying, like see from the spiritual realm. He was able to see from within versus seeing from out. And it was dope. So he was able to fight by tapping into being in that zone, being inside the inner realms of vision and getting loose with it, and ended up winning. Like, I feel like this is where we at now as a people. Like, this is the time now. It doesn't matter what they did. Like, we still coming to get the W, and it ain't over till we win. So we here now. Let's get it. So so now we're gonna serve the dinner with the
and you know what's interesting, brother? OrisaGbemi, when you tell that story, that's the story of David and Goliath. But let me take you back to Cush and tell you where that story came from. That story came from when Heru was battling his uncle Seton, who had killed his father. And Tehuti had told him, if you can make your eye whole, I will give you insight and outsight. And Heru literally had to fight his uncle with a challenge. But the thing is, he let the force be with him. See, this is where Star Wars comes in. Let the force be with you. And that becomes so important. Our ancestors didn't have much. Didn't have weapons, so to speak. They did have weapons, but so to speak. There were a number of things that worked against them, but they let the force be with them. And it was the trust they had in the creator within them that allowed them to succeed at what they did. And throughout all these years, with everything they've done to us, we've allowed the force to be with us. And we've understood what it was that we had to. And every generation that joined the ancestors, joined those that came before them, those that were willing to accept them. Because you see, ancestors knock at your door, but if you don't answer it, they can't come in. Well, and that's why I give you that mathematical number from a mathematical perspective, from science, so that you understand that what I'm saying about the ancestors is not like taking you into the twilight zone. It's about 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents. I give you the actual mathematical formula that can solve your problem. X equals 2 to the nth power, where X equals the number of ancestors you have, and N equals the particular generation that you're dealing with. So when you're dealing with your parents, X equals N to the first power, which is 2. When you're dealing with your grandparents, X equals N to the second power, which is 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay? And then X equals 2 to the third power, which is your great-grandparents, which is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. You have 8 great-grandparents. Now, when you think about your direct and indirect parents, X equals N to the 20th power. That's equal to, because every one of your ancestors have the same amount of ancestors. So it's almost like you're multiplying double time, direct and indirect. So X equals N to the 20th power equals 1,048,576. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 20 times. Direct and indirect, you're dealing with 1,048,576 ancestors over the past 500 years. I'm only taking you back to 1525. And you've got 1,048,576. What happens if I took you back 5 million years? How many ancestors do you have? And after I take you back to before the beginning began, how many ancestors do you have? Billions? Trillions? No. You only have one. Your greatest ancestor and your first ancestor is the creator. And that's why you are the creator having a human experience.
Yeah, that part. I had that conversation with one of the young kings too, man. It's funny because I think it started out with the question of how do I know God is real? And I didn't use that story, but I used a story where I broke it down, between how the life factor and the evolution of life. And I went to, have you ever seen a dead body before? He was like, yeah. I said, okay. So you saw a dead body. I said, now, have you ever seen a pregnant woman before? He was like, yeah. I said, okay. I said, so the difference between that dead body you saw and the body that we're in now communicating is what? And he was like, I looked at it, I said, it's breathing. I said, so it has air in it, the spirit going in and out, right? He was like, yeah. I said, so does that determine you being alive? He was like, yeah, it's okay. I said, but what about the baby that's in the womb of the mother? I said, because that baby's alive. That baby's got a heartbeat. That baby's breathing. But is that baby breathing air? Yeah, he looked at me. Like, yeah, that baby wasn't breathing air. I said, but that baby was alive without breathing air, whereas that body was dead without breathing air. I said, so now, how was that baby surviving? And he kind of looked at me. I said, the baby was surviving through the womb of the cosmic mother as she was in the gestation stage of creation. I said, the baby didn't come to life in this realm until the umbilical cord was cut, because that's when it took its first breath. I said, so now when that dead body that you saw, that dead body was only dead in this realm because it went back to the creator or creation part that it was before it came into that body when it came into through the womb. And so it was dope because I saw his head, like, he was like, man, where is he going? But then when I got home, he was like he didn't he didn't know how to kind of come back at, how do I know God is real? I'm like, because we here on either side. You know, if we're not in the body, we still alive in the realm of the ancestors. I said, and then if we in the body, then, you know, we still alive here while they're alive in that realm. So it's like, we don't die, we just transform. But it was cool because I could see the light bulb go off. So it's like, this is what it's about.
Yeah,
this is what it's about. Yes, sir. So the Moors. The Moors was something we were supposed to get into. Before we go into the Moors, can you kind of share with us the significance and the power within the word myrrh before even going to the Moors? Because I know we probably got a lot of people on the channel and in the tribe who meditate. And so for those who have been meditating or have, you know, studied meditation a while, some of them would know about the Merkaba. And so when you talk about the Merkaba, I mean, and then we talk about myrrh, and you are Ka Ba, and some people might not have ever heard you break down what the difference is between the Ka and the Ba, let alone about the myrrh. So can we kind of get into that a little bit before we go into the Moors, before the Moors?
Well, the Ka basically represents the spirit. And everybody has the same Ka, made of the same stuff of the cosmos. My Ka and Chatita's Ka and T's Ka and OrisaGbemi's Ka is all the same. It's what unites us. But if you think of an ocean, with that ocean now being divided into drops of water in the ocean, what part of the drop of water is not the ocean, and what part of the ocean is not in the drop of water? It unites us all. We're all in a cosmic ocean of the universe. But in the separation of that part of water into a drop becomes the soul, which is the Ba. So the Ka is spirit, which is what unites all of us into the same ocean. But the Ba is what separates each drop of water of the ocean into who they are. So that's what makes Chatita, Chachita. That's what makes T, T. That's what makes OrisaGbemi, and that's what makes Kaba Haiawatha, our soul. Our soul is who we are as it relates to our place in the great ocean, but it's the Ka that unites all of us together as one. Mer is a sense of what I know of in the church is when someone speaks of a perfect love, they call it agape. To the African, there's a love supreme beyond agape, and that's mer. Mer is a cosmic love. It's a love that goes beyond words. You know, when you love somebody, you say, oh, I love you so much, words could never explain. That's mer. When the only way that you could ever understand your feeling is by feeling it, and not by using a word that could describe it, because there are no words that could describe it. Our ancestors understood that there were feelings that could not be explained. And that is what the spirit drove those feelings of mer, or love. Now, on the other side, there are feelings that we have that are not love, that are indescribable. Like when we say, I'm so mad I could spit, okay? With the metaphor that spitting is a higher form of being angry. So there are words, and by the way, in science, all of those come out of the limbic system in the brain in a place that's known as the amygdala. Amygdala is that place where you are when all of your emotions, everything you have a facial expression for, happiness, sadness, love, anger, surprise, that all comes from that amygdala in your brain. It's an almond shape in the middle part of your brain. And it's called the amygdala.
That's powerful. Yeah, man, that's powerful.
And the way that T. Rigglesby is explaining the Merkaba for the first time is that concept that, in sports, it's called fourth quarter drills. When you have expended all the energy you have, you don't think you can go on, but all of a sudden there's a burst of energy that comes through you. It's funny what the human body can deal with. Living in the Western world, they are so superficial. I call the Western world superficial sapiens. They're shallow. We are super sapiens. So for those of you who like Dragon Ball Z and about Super Saiyans, okay, well, they got that from us. Super Saiyans had the power of Heka. Heka is will. They were known as the Magi. The Magi were the keepers of the sacred legacy of the cosmos. They didn't even look at their legacy as being African. They looked at it as being cosmic. Because at the time, the only people around were African. So they didn't have to say this is African or this is mine, because they realized that you can't own this type of gift that you're given. You can't own it. You're given it for the moments that you can handle it. Because when you look at Star Wars, that's what Darth Vader. See, Darth Vader was born with the power. He was born with the Force. But then he moved over to the dark side, which is the same power, but it's on the other side.
Oh man, yeah, this is fun. I swear, oh man, honest to God, this is fun. I had a meditation so dope last night. Like I could probably do this for like another day straight. Like, because I just tapped in. Like, it was dope because I came across this. I'm gonna have to share this YouTube channel. I don't know who runs it, but it's like, I don't know who they are, but I don't know if it's a dude, a lady, whoever. But they have a music channel, and it's like, it's real African music, but they got like the AI, where they kind of have the AI, I guess, like animated, kind of like Avatar, or like a lot of the AI, stuff that's out now. But it's dope because it's simple, with the AI generated avatars. It's like simple, but it kind of reminds me of Black Panther when T'Challa was in the land of the ancestors. But the music is dope. And so I'm not sure how I stumbled across the channel, but I was just like, yo, when I did, I subscribed to it. I'm like, the music was dope. And so when I was listening to it one day, recently, I was like, I'm gonna meditate to this music one day. And so last night was the night. I said, I'm gonna go ahead and meditate to it. So I put it on, I laid down and just went into it. And I got these 2 crystals that I got. Shout out to Tony, Dr. Blair's mentee, protege who's still running the Meta Center. And so I had went to one of his events like, I don't know, a couple years ago. But anyways, I had got these crystals from him. And I was like, yo, these they were powerful. Like they resonated with me deeply. And like I was like, I'm gonna meditate with both of them with that song. And when I did it, it was like talk about Star Wars. Like it was like let's just say it was a heavenly celebration because it was powerful. It was profound. Like I don't know if I've ever had a meditation like that outside of like a Reiki session where I was actually with another guided healer, you know, who was doing their work with it. But it was powerful because I could see and feel a lot of the energy that I feel like is coming through us tonight. Like I felt it, you know, last night when I was in that meditation. So it's like now, even just throughout the day, I've seen so many different things that are kind of like, to me, all receipts and confirmation of the universe being where it's supposed to be. And the reason why I really wanted to start off with the show in regards to talking about the situation over there at the Vatican is the fact that I remember, and shout out to Kabiesi Obakoso Shango. I remember the day that I made my Shango ceremony. I remember getting the news that the lady in England had died. I'm like, yo, this is powerful. Like, this is crazy. And then I was just talking to my moms about like the black nobility and like the way that there's puppets controlling other puppets, but there's really like the Wizard of Oz effect going on, like puppet masters. Like, you know, when you get to see who's really behind that screen, a lot of people would be surprised to know that there's some people who look like us who really controlling the so-called puppets that control this little situation we're in now. And then like the next day, I remember getting the news that he was gone. And I had just started watching your live when you were talking about Ishtar. And I'm like, man, this is nuts. And then you think about how we're talking about the feminine energy, the power of the cosmic mother, the power of Mother Earth, and the matriarchal essence, and you know, the birth factor, the you know, the beginning, the womb. And it's like, yeah, this is it. I heard a story, and I gotta verify it, so don't quote me. Hopefully somebody in the tribe heard this and has proof. But I heard a story recently that there are waters starting to come up in the sands of I think the Sahara, one of the deserts, or it might have been the Sahara. And I'm like, yo, that's real deep, because that's said to be connected to like Oshun, you know what I'm saying, bringing her, you know, flows of blessings of you know, her essence. And like it was just crazy. So I'm like, if that's the case, and then you talk about the significance of that number 5, yeah, we got some real strong astrological, numerological, you know, alignments that's unfolding on top of the recent equinoxes that just took place, right? Because you was at the last one in Kemet, not the last one, but the one before last in Kemet, right?
The solstice,
so how
summer solstice.
So how does all of this alignment, like, how does that bring us to where we are now? Especially when you talk about the equinoxes, the 6,000-year cycles, you know, the astrological aspects of all this numerology. Can you kind of bring that to like where you see it as the alignment now, where we are with the correlation to the 42 laws of Ma'at?
Well, what I'd also like to say, to go back to something you said, is I'm doing research now on IFA, and the fact that IFA is actually AI. When you look at the numerical system and what IFA offers in terms of their perspective in numerology, they have a number system that goes 200, I think 52 or 253. Don't quote me, I have to go back.
No, 256 Odu. You got 16 major Odu.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That basically is what the binary system is based on.
Yep.
And that I've always said AI is not artificial intelligence, it's ancestral intelligence.
Yes, sir.
Because everything that AI has been given artificially, what is ancestral or natural. And so when you're dealing with that 256 number, and you're looking at the way in which IFA expresses, and when you look at the cultural unity of Africa, you can see that there is an ancient way of looking at the numerical system, which I'm going to tell y'all right now something. when we do our own research, we're going back as a human people millions of years before what they want to say. As it relates to the waters coming up out of Sahara, what's important to realize is that at one time that was a tropical water system. And about what my latest book that I'm finishing up now on the Moors, it's titled The Moors Before the Moors. There's a section on the desiccation or the creation of the Sahara Desert from what's called the Taman Rasset River. Africa went through what's known as the African humid phase, the AHP, and it went through the African arid phase, which is the AAP. About 5000 BC, that area, there was no such thing as sub-Africa, subtropical Africa. It didn't exist. That was all plush. They have done x-rays of what's under the Sahara Desert. They find crocodile bones, fish bones. They find different types of water life under the Sahara Desert. And what happened, the reason why they know it to be accurate is because when the desert started to become a desert, the winds blew the sands across North Africa, and there's evidence of East Africa off the coast of southern Mauritania in southern Africa. That's the evidence that all that area was plush. It wasn't a desert when you go beyond 5000 BC. Busy trade going on amongst the rivers. The other thing is to realize that at one time, the rivers of Africa were connected. The Orange River, the Limpopo River of southern Africa was connected to the Hapi River, was connected to the Congo River, which was connected to the Niger and the Senegal River. So it becomes important that we understand that there was a lively water trade amongst the Africans. And when the desiccation occurred, the Africans started to travel south, and then they started to travel north. So the Africans that went into Europe in 711 actually were the Africans that lived in the Sahara. And they moved north in like 2500 BC. The Africans that moved south created a nation called Ouagadougou. But before that, they created 4 settlements. They're called the Dars. Dar-Tichet, Dar-Nima, Dar-Tangent, 4 of them. They, as settlements, thousands of people came together and created Ouagadougou about 2500 BC, and that is what we call the ancient kingdom of Ghana. Ghana became Mali, Mali became Songhai. So it's important in looking at the history of this and in understanding exactly who we are as a people. We are the Magi. We are the keepers of the sacred legacy of our ancestors.
That part.
We are the carriers of Heka. And Heka means will. The English word for Heka is called magic. That's where Magi comes from. Magi comes from Magi. Okay, but what the Magi possessed was will. So when Marcus Garvey said, "Up, you mighty race, you will accomplish what you will," what he was saying is that what you will become. When our ancestors were on the plantation and they were willing their freedom and their emancipation, they willed it into existence. They didn't make it happen. It happened because they willed it. During the Civil Rights Movement, during the Black Power Movement, they willed it to happen. They was getting their heads cracked open. They were getting put in prison. But they were singing, ain't nobody gonna turn me around. No matter what we feel about that time, you have to admire the courage. And so we will think that's the Magi. When you come on your program and you do this program, that's a will that you're doing.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
willing this to happen.
Yes, sir.
When you work with those young brothers, you're willing them. And so your will and their will come together and you make things happen. This ain't no game we're playing. This is a sacred science. Science, spirituality is unseen science, and science is seen spirituality.
Yes, sir.
We are the Magi. We are the keepers of the sacred legacy of the cosmos.
I should. Keepers of the shrines. Yes, sir. And to even add like a very powerful exclamation mark to this whole thing with the symbolism, the number 9 especially, and then like the divinity and being divine, and we talk about like the Magi and you know, like that work of like knowing how to use like a very, you know, powerful force, but use it miraculously, you know, like it's magic. So that's shout out to Yeye Oya, because Yeye Oya, like one of the greetings that we greet her in Yoruba and IFA is Hekua, Yeye Oya. You know what I'm saying? Like, so in her number is 9, and she's also attributed to the storm. She is Storm from the X-Men. Like, that's where they get that from Oya. So that's the powerful divine mother, you know, her and Shango. They that divine yin and the yang, you know, of the masculine and feminine warrior forces. So that's, yeah, this is a lot of that's a lot of sacred science going on.
Oh yeah,
It's a lot of sacred science.
absolutely. And it's not Twilight Zone.
No.
You know, because with Dr. Ben always had a problem with folk when they try to go into a Twilight Zone and make things seem something that is really not. And see, my thing was always respecting what Dr. Ben was saying, understanding what he was saying, but understanding that spirituality is a science. And science is a spirituality. And you can't separate the two. Our brother James Smalls and I did a presentation together.
Shout out to
and
Baba
one of the
Small.
things that that's my brother. That's my elder brother. He told a story about what the Greeks did that started the whole problem of being a superficial sapient. And he talked about the fact that when the Kushites, when they sat before the Kushites to learn this knowledge and wisdom, it was very difficult for them to be able to see the spirituality in the science and the science in the spirituality. And so what he said he did was, what they did was that in separating them, they were never able to really deal with the issues that they faced. And so they became superficial in terms of what they did, because they never saw a sacred science. They saw sacred or spirit, and they saw science. And from that, the Romans inherited that, because the Greeks taught the Romans. And in that, learning it from the split, think about what happened with the Pharisees and Jesus in the story. See, this is where it's demonstrated. They came to Jesus and they said, do you pay taxes? Because they wanted to trick him. Because if he said that he paid taxes, then the people that followed him from a spiritual perspective would no longer trust him anymore. If he said he didn't pay taxes, then the Romans was going to put him in check. So Jesus, being the mind that he was, which goes back to what I'm saying now, I'm putting the story in metaphor with Jesus, but this is what happened. What did Jesus say to them? He said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God. That was his answer. Because they was trying to, so you're the son of God now. So if you're the son of God, you don't have to pay taxes. But if you don't pay taxes, the Romans are going to get you, because we're going to put you on record to say you ain't paying taxes. So we're going to get you. If he said that he did pay taxes, then the people that followed him from a spiritual perspective would have had a problem with it. And so what the brother did in a very simple way was that he separated the spirit from the sacred from the science, but at the same time, he brought them both together, because he said, you pay homage to science or to Caesar, and you pay homage to God. It was brilliant. He should have known then they were going to crucify him. He was a dead man walking after answering like that.
Listen, y'all forgive me. I'm not laughing at a man getting crucified. I'm laughing at the timing of you saying what you saying and what I'm reading, because shout out to T. Wriggles, talk about the divine feminine and the divine number 9. You daggone right. There's another one I'm going to share, family. Y'all got to check this one out. Shout out to African Creator Energy with this. They got a whole series, but the 9 ether re-engineering, man, all they books go ham. So shout out to them. But it's funny because when I saw that, the comments, and shout out to Chiquita as well, talking about the 9s and the 9 wins, I had my little library on display tonight because I was ready to go to class. I had, notes and books and everything. And it's funny when you were saying that, and it came out of the Bible, like one of the quotes that they got to like speak about, and like this is just, I promise this the beginning of the book. It's on page 3. But they kind of like bringing forth the Bible terms and quotes of how they're speaking about the real, God, the real, ether. So anywho, this one says, John answered saying, I baptize you with water, but someone more powerful than I is coming, and he shall baptize you with ether, the Holy Spirit of fire. Bible New Testament Gospel of Luke 3:16. Well, guess what? Kaguo Kabiesi Obakoso Shango also will baptize that ass with fire. And he definitely is doing it with them lightning bolts. So yeah, it's a lot going on, man, because even like what you was talking about with how they try to baptize the holy act of, making love to make a baby. Like even this is talking about that. But then they also telling the truth of what's to come because they know what's coming. So they telling you what's coming. But they're just trying to prolong it as long as they can before, just knowing that it's here. It ain't coming, it's here now. So that means it's a wrap. And like you always say, ain't over till we win. Well, it's over for them. So, and the win is here. And then one more quick one. It says, Allah is ether, the light of the heavens and the earth, light upon light. Allah doth guide whom he will to his light. Allah doth set forth parables for men, and Allah does know all things. The Quran, An-Nur 24:35. But if I'm not mistaken, they're referring to ether as well in the form of Islam. Is that not correct, Professor Kaba?
I'm not sure, but I know that ether is a plasma.
Mm-hmm.
Ether is a spiritual water plasma. Okay, it's a plasma is the spiritual water that we walk around, but we're inhaling water, but it's cosmic water. When you take 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen, that creates the water that we drink. But there is a cosmic water that we all live in. That's the ocean I was talking about when I was talking about the drops of water.
Yeah.
We're all in this big plasma, in this big ether. And we're all walking around. And we're all walking around this ether like drops of water walk around in the ocean. And what connects us is the ka, or the spirit. But what makes our soul is the fact that I'm walking around as Kaba and you're walking around as OrisaGbemi. And Chachita is walking around as Chachita, but we're all in the same plasma aura, water. The last thing that my brother Earl Grant told me, because he used to come to the one thing that Earl Grant appreciated about me was that I was into science. He used to come to my classes on Shabaka Stone and on Sirius and things like that. And he said he appreciated my approach towards science in explaining the African tradition. And brother became ill, and a good friend of his came and brought him out to Los Angeles to live. I visited Los Angeles. I heard that he was in the hospital. I went to visit him. We sat and we talked for a while. Now, this is Malcolm's friend. He was an elder brother at this time. And I had brought him to the district where I worked for him to present to the community. We had him come twice. And when I visited him in the hospital in Los Angeles, it was time to go, and I started leaving, and we were waiting for the elevator. The last thing he told me, he said, the first chance you get, I want you to research plasma physics. And I researched it. And that's when I came up with the term, you are the creator having a human experience. Research, Google it, research plasma physics. It will answer what you just said.
I'm gonna go a little bit deeper. I'm telling you, we're in class tonight. Shout out to T Wiggle said I'm totally loving this build. I'm loving it too, man. I feel like I'm in the zone right now because this is amazing. So I'm gonna go all the way back to class, Professor Kaba, because to go even deeper into that, when you're talking about the plasma, I never forget. Like I can't remember which video this one was, but I just remember like how it just took my mind. Like I remember when you said how when you first got exposed to Dr. Blair's work, how he just like twisted your mind like a rubber band and pulled it back all the way to the like that's how I was listening to both of y'all. But when you was dropping this one, this is why I'm like this is definitely like I'm in the zone. I'm feeling it because it's kind of like all the lessons that I learned over all the time I've been studying you. It's like everything is like coming to the forefront on Front Street, like we're here now. But it goes back to the element of neutrinos. Can you kind of break down neutrinos and how neutrinos plays a role into what we're talking about now with this ether and this plasma?
Neutrinos are said to be the lightest thing that exists in the cosmos. Like right now, neutrinos are coming through where I'm living. They're coming through me and they're going down through me and out. Neutrinos are just constantly coming to the earth and they're showering us. Almost like the symbol in Kush Kemet or Egypt, where they have the human Heru surrounded by something that looks like drops of water, but every drop is an ankh. And it's coming through. It's so light that there is nothing that is lighter than neutrino, so it just goes straight through. It goes through buildings, it goes through apartments, it goes through clothing, it goes through humans. It just passes through and ends up on the other side of the earth, and it continues through the cosmos, even beyond the earth that would be below us. That's what neutrinos are. They're the lightest of all elements. We have a word called neutrinos, but they exist, but that's what they're called, neutrinos.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And that reminds me of something that I cannot wait to get into. Oh man, I can't wait to get into this one. And I'm pretty sure it's probably gonna happen soon too again. But that reminds me of kind of like the ships, the crafts that came and was like chilling over the White House in like 1952. If somebody got a chance, try. I want to say it was July 11th or July 10th or something like that, 1952. I want to say it was 3 6, about 9 crafts or something like that was just chilling over the White House. They stayed there for days at a time. And then they kind of like, would go off and come back, and they sent scramblers up there, but that didn't do anything. But because it kind of reminds me of like the neutrinos and like all these elements of nature and of the cosmos. Because like we're talking about like electromagnetic radiation, and we're talking about the electrons, the leptons, the neutrinos. All these are like, to me, the cosmic, I feel like, origins and like the infinite aspects of creation kind of like how when you talk about how the life expanded or kind of metamorphosed out of the waters of Nun. So especially now with what's going on now, and I know there's a lot of craft that people are seeing going in and out of the waters as well as in the cosmos, but I'll deal with the extraterrestrial stuff in another episode, but for the sake of nature, and we're talking about science now, can you kind of bridge the gap with all these elements like the neutrinos and the plasma and all that stuff, and then also like when you talk about the creation of the waters of Nun, like how does that all tie together in this whole creation thing? As above.
I think that when you look at the universe, the universe is everything. Then you have that part of the universe that is ordered and arranged. The universe is the Nun. Within the Nun, you have the abilities to self-procreate. The universe is the womb. Within the womb, you have something known as panspermia, which basically means all sperm or all seed, so to speak. The panspermia is what fertilizes that part of the universe that creates the superclusters, the clusters, the galaxies, the stars, the planets, and the asteroids, comets, meteorites, and things like that. All of these kick off other things. But it was that initial Big Bang, which is Ptah in Shabakistan. Ptah. It initiates the ordering and arranging of the universe and creates a process of becoming, which is Kepra. The first moment it occurred, and Ptah goes from being, the universe goes from being in potential energy to kinetic energy or energy in motion that's going to create all of the physical parts of the cosmos. That's called Kepra Septepi, Septepy, Kepra Septepi, which means the process of becoming for the first time. When that initial piece comes, it continues beyond that. It's like when you put your car, a key in your car and you turn the ignition, okay? That first, brrr, okay, that starts it. But your car keeps going and then the car starts, okay? That first initial piece, that's Kepra Septepi. But the continuance of it happening is Kepra, the process of becoming. And so when that first initial thing comes, the universe knew before its beginning began, before existence existed, they knew what it would take for all things to come into existence that would lead to us as humans. We are the masterpiece of the universe and the child of the cosmos, because we are the entity that can evolve into who we are, but then to involve. Because remember what the Creator wanted, I want to know myself. But because the Creator was spirit in mass, which is the universe, spirit can't know spirit. Spirit can coagulate and become materialized in the universe, is who we are. And we are given a definite time to live and then to move on. But in the moments that we are on earth, our job is to involve, to know the Creator within and to know the powers of the Creator. And the deeper that you go inside of yourself, the more you have faith in yourself, the more you can tap into the cosmic reality. And you can become and act like the, see, this was the story of Jesus. I think the story of Jesus is a phenomenal story, as long as you realize that you are Jesus. You're not looking for a particular individual that was put on a cross. Once you realize that you're Jesus, once you realize that you are the creator having a human experience, because Jesus didn't say, I am the path. Those who follow me are one with God. Jesus said, I'm walking on the same path you walking on. If you walk on this path, you will know what I know. And you will know that you are the creator. You are the son of God. S-U-N. Okay. Women are the son of God too, not just men. But then men took it and put an O on it instead of a U. And now everybody think that the son of God and everybody in the Christian church got to be males, and the women got to be nuns, which is a subservient status in the Catholic Church. And only the men can become pope. And so, to go back to your question, the idea of everything that exists are all emanations of the Creator, who at that moment before the beginning began said, I want to know me. I want to feel. I want to see. I want to touch. I want to smell. I want to hear. And the only way to do that was to materialize. That's why in my book, Spirituality Before Religions, I begin with evolution so that we can get the physical body in place. Because once the physical body is in place, the heart's the right size, the sun, the liver is the right size, the lungs are good, the brain is good, the knees work, everything is in place. Then, as we did in Africa, we then began to involve. And the three greatest gifts we were given was knowledge, reason, and language. Knowledge to know, reason to analyze what you know, and language to transmit the information that you've analyzed, that you know, for the younger generation to take it to the next level.
Man, this is so dope. Oh my God, this is dope, because you literally just broke down the conversation we had, I think I want to say either Wednesday or Thursday night, the conversation we had to prepare for this show. And I remember I was sitting on the patio when we was talking, and you broke down those same 4 elements to me about how you used to teach the children, and then how, the thing that the show, about to take on the road, how you want to teach the teachers how to teach. And it's just like, it was so dope. I'm sitting there listening to you, and I'm looking in the sky, and I'm looking at the stars. And because, like I said, I've been a student of yours and several other masters, teachers, and scholars, especially like the Dr. Blairs of the world, and shout out to Professor Smalls, and all the masters, man. It's like I'm sitting there and I'm listening to you. And I was just, shout out to my homeboy Marley as well. I was just talking to him about this, about how I never not appreciate the conversations or the opportunities to talk to you, because I remember like watching you on TV, like on documentaries and stuff. And it's just like, my sons grew up, watching me watch you, and then to see me get to meet you, and like to be able to do this, that means a lot to me. It's just like, so I'm sitting there and I'm listening to you, and you just broke down those same 4 principles about education. And I'm looking at the sky, I'm looking at Orion's belt, and I'm looking at Sirius, and I'm looking at, the other stars and planets that's in that area of our solar system. And it's just like, and we were talking about a young king that I'm mentoring, and his name is Sirius. And I'm just like, this is serious. Like, this is like creme de la creme. Like, this is it. And then to have this show and this conversation go the way it is, and I promise, it feel like we in the warm-ups. It feel like we ain't took the whole, sweatsuit off yet. Like, this is crazy, man. But man, with all that,
can I say one more thing about plasma?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. The Moors with music and harmony and the balance of the humors, which basically are your liquid systems, they had developed various like cordophone, that when you were sick, they would play over your body. Mucus, blood, phlegm, hormones. Mucus, blood, phlegm, hormones. They had 4 strings on the cordophone. So that, let's say you had, let's just make up a flu, which is, mucus. They would play the cordophone over your body to release the mucus to be able to move through your body smooth. Let's say you had a blood clot. They would play the cordophone over your body in a way to let the blood clot flow out of your body. Okay? When it comes to phlegm and when it comes to hormones, same exact thing. There was a musician born in 810 AD. His story is told in the book, The Golden Age of the Moor, edited by Dr. Van Sertima. His name is Ziryab, Ziryab. And Ziryab he brought the lute, this cordophone. It's called the lute. But then it was called the lute. Today it's called the lute, L-U-T-E. Before it was called L-O-U-D, lute. He added a 5th string. That was for your plasma. So that whatever problem you had when he played that, and he included the plasma string on the cordophone, on a guitar, when he included that, it healed you mentally, spiritually, and physically. That's how deep this gets. That's the role that music plays. Music is not entertainment. It's healing. Now, I see Nkosi has a question. Why is blood considered plasma? When I was teaching 5th grade, when you are Jehovah's Witness, children cannot celebrate. And normally in classes, if you have a birthday, a lot of time mom or dad or family, they decide to celebrate it with your class. Instead of having a party, they get cake, cupcake, things like that. And they celebrate a child's birthday in the class. If you're having a Christmas party, or if you're having a Thanksgiving or misgiving party, as I call it, or, whatever type of celebration, Jehovah's Witness not allowed to celebrate. So they have to be excused from the class. And so one day there was a more mature 5th grader that had to leave for the party. And one of the students asked, well, why? Why can't you celebrate a party? And she explained why Jehovah's Witnesses do not celebrate party. The creation of the human being greater than, see, because they want to keep you straight down, but that's beside the point. And then someone said, but I heard that Jehovah's Witness is willing to let a person die before they have a blood transfusion. Why is that? I mean, like someone that I love, all they need is a blood transfusion, and you're not going to let them have a blood, and they might die because of that, And she explained that Jehovah's Witness believes that your soul is in your blood. I'm answering your question, Nkosi. I'm moving around. Your soul is in your blood. And if you say have a blood transfusion, and in that blood is another person's blood, it's someone else's soul. If you have a blood transfusion, you have other people's soul inside your soul. Blood is the type of liquid in your body that when you get sick, what's one of the first things they want to do? Blood test. Because your blood tells you everything that makes you, you. Remember what we said about the soul and the spirit? Spirit, everybody's alike. If your blood was a spirit, you could get anybody's blood, according to the story. But since your soul is unique to you, and your blood will tell people everything they know about what your illness is, then the plasma becomes the very nature of the soul. Now, whether or not they calling it that for a reason, I can see why plasma would be that unique thing, because blood is a liquid, but it's impacted by something even stronger. And I think it's something that nobody wants to talk about, because blood has its strength in melanin. Melanin has its strength in the carbon, and carbon comes from the cosmic universe. The blackness of the universe pushes in on itself until there's no space. It's under pressure. And when there is no more space that this matter can go into, it implodes. And when it implodes, it becomes a star. That's the birth of a star. When blackness moves in on itself and there is no more space for the blackness, so it implodes. People say, well, can you tell another? Let me bring you down to earth. And let me tell you about fossil fuels. And let me tell you about the living things that are under the earth. When they come in contact and they press in on each other, and there's no more space, they crystallize and they become diamonds. Diamonds are crystallized blackness. Okay? And so whenever you take blackness and you put it under pressure, whether it's in the heavens or on the earth, it crystallizes and becomes a hardened material that lives forever. And that's who we are. We are diamonds in the rough. We are blackness that has been put under pressure. This is what the Creator wanted. The Creator wanted to take our blackness and put it under pressure, so much pressure to be enslaved, that not only would we know the heavens, but we would know the earth. And that we had the DNA of the pyramid builders, we have the DNA of the plantation dwellers, we have the DNA of those that lived in the project, but we also have the promise of those who will go to the promised land. We are organic diamonds. And by the way, that those are called nano diamonds, the blackness of the universe. And again, I encourage you to read the work of Dr. Richard King. I'm not coming at you because I just said this. I'm coming because I research genes. I've learned this through Dr. Richard King. I've learned this through Bruce Bynum. I've learned this through Francis Cress Welsing. This is not, people say, well, I heard you saying, you heard what I said that I researched. This comes from long lines of geniuses that have brought this information out. Anything you want to know about carbon and blackness and stars and nano diamonds, NaNO diamonds, check out Richard King's work. Melanin, Key to Black Greatness, and also the African Origins of Biological Psychiatry. Don't believe a word I say. In fact, I'd be disappointed if you just believed me. I just want you to think.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's real. That's where, humbly speaking, I got a library, man. You know what? And shout out to Professor Smalls. I remember when he was down here in Jacksonville, we was chopping it up in between going to the event. And matter of fact, shout out to Brother Umar, man. Shout out to Brother Umar. I was talking to him about you today too. And just, letting him know about what we was working on, what we was talking about, what we were working on, whatever. But shout out to Baba Smalls talking about libraries. I remember when he was here, he was saying that I think Forrest Whitaker was like the only person's library he ever seen that he felt like was doper than his. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. And so it was just like to hear how I look at somebody like you and him, how y'all admire libraries like the modern generation admire cars. You know what I'm saying? Don't get it twisted. I love cars, but I'd much rather have me a dope ass library where like everybody like, yo, his library was dope than a Lambo, because the range and the distance of what, you know, encompasses with that library versus that car. And I love cars. It's not even close. And so it's like to hear this and to like see this in real time and experience it, it's surreal. Like I feel like I'm sitting with Malcolm. I feel like I'm sitting with, you know, the honorable, you know, Marcus Mosiah. Like I feel like I'm sitting with the those elements of nature of not just my time, but also the time before me, the time during me, and the time after me, because I see it with the young ones. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, like I mean, it's masterful work. So it's just like, yeah, when you say it ain't over till we win, I know you mean that. Like I know you mean that, even just because I know like the passion from where that comes. I don't know if everybody else feels the way I do, but I know. And like to see it, like to experience it, to know that that's real, like that's why I'm like, this might be my favorite episode or interview of all time, because it just, the spirit is in the elements, and it's just so natural. Like even with everybody in the tribe, it's what, 132. We still got a full classroom of people here, like 26 people in the room. So it's like at almost 2:00 in the morning, you know. So this is the creator at his finest, and shout out to the mothers. And I remember I wanted to give a shout out to the ancestors and all the master teachers. And you went into it before I even did, when I was opening up. But it's like to see like the way the paradigm shifts according to like the way the information shifts and the access to information shifts. It's like, it's amazing. And to now be able to experience it and to see it with the young ones doing with the ancestral intelligence, which I think you the first one I heard say that, but to see that now, how that's matching with the actual artificial intelligence with the technology is dope. Shout out to Heru with the flyer too, because that's a perfect example of how the younger generations, they could pick something up and it's like that, you know, and then the ones that's younger than him, they're going to be even doper with it. So it's like, this is a beautiful, you know, time. It really is.
Absolutely. This is a powerful time.
Yeah.
And a way is being made, and the stars have crossed.
Yes.
And they've aligned. And Bob Marley say, have no fear for atomic energy. And I see atomic energy as being a metaphor for the Western world. Have no fear for atomic energy, because none of them can stop the time. You know, and although, you know, the other piece is, how long should they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We have to fulfill the book. Every one of them that came before us, Martin Luther King, okay, Malcolm X, they all lived to fulfill their destiny. They all came to do what they were born to do. And as sad as it is to have that physical removal from us, they had a redemption song and they sang it and they told us. Bob Marley, okay, the last song on his last album that he was alive to do, redemption song. That was the lullaby I used to sing my daughters and my son to sleep with. Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit. But my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation, triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? Because all we ever had was a redemption song. Check this out. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery, because none but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, because none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We have to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing? He's asking, won't you become a part of this process? Won't you become a teacher? Won't you do what needs to be done? Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? Because all we've ever had was these songs of freedom. And I like to add the Marcus Garvey redemption song, Up You Mighty Race, you will accomplish what you will. Martin Luther King's redemption song, Okay? We shall overcome. Malcolm X's redemption song, by any means necessary. Harriet Tubman's redemption song, you'll keep moving forward with me or you'll die where you stand. Redemption song. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom?
Listen, man, listen. Oh man, I'm trying to think. I'm just, woo. Yeah, this is crazy. Yeah, this is crazy. Man, I'm trying to think. Like this is crazy. I love it. I love it. The ancestors is here. I had to light an incense, man. It remind me of. Do you still make the incense that you? I remember I had bought some of your incense. It was dope too. I can't remember the name of them. But
Hoppy and Kush.
You still make them?
No, don't make the incense, man. But I still make the oil, but I don't make the incense.
I got you. I might have to grab some oil because shout out to brother
Umar. Because it was, making incense was very time consuming.
I got you.
And I used to do everything by hand. I didn't have any machines.
Got you.
I wanted to touch every piece of incense, and I wanted to bag each incense. My children used to help me.
Right.
To do it. But of course now they are where they are and I'm where I am. And so my thing was keep doing the oil. But man, I used to do the incense. But the other thing is that I just wanted to be able to do what needs to be done. But yeah, man, scents are very important to us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. All the senses. Man, this is dope. Oh, okay. I know where I want to go to if we got time. This is the last thing I got if you got time. But Sirius, right? And then the Dogon tribe, and then the Nomos and Sirius A, B, and what is it, C, right? Which one is Potolo? Potolo is the one. Which one? That's the one, the most dense one. But I can't remember if that was B
Sirius
or C.
B.
Sirius B. Okay, that's Potolo. Can you kind of break down Potolo and
Sirius A, which is the big one that you can see in the sky?
Right.
That's Sigitolo.
Sigitolo, right.
Siguitolo. Tolo means star. The Egyptians called it Sopet. The Sirius B, which is that little star, which they believe is what gave off Sigitolo. That is Potolo, which means the littlest of things. Bo is a grain that the Dogon grow. It is the smallest seeds, but it's the one that's used the most for everything, almost like a staple. So it's in everything. So when they looked at this, they saw, because the Dogon believed that just like our planets revolve around the sun, they believed that our sun revolved around Sirius. And then you have what's called the third star, C, which is called Emaya, which is known as the star of women. And the Nomos can be related to the Shabaka stone. You can make a relationship with Shabaka stone. The Nomos are 8 pairs. And each one has its own personality. And one of the Nomos is the male aspect, and it's called Yurugu, where Sister Dr. Marimba Ani wrote a book, Yurugu, Yurugu. And that is believed to be the incomplete one. That is the essence of life that metaphorically is that human that's always searching for completeness and dies unfulfilled. I think one of the saddest things in life, in fact, let me say that again. I think the saddest thing in life is to become an elder and be incomplete. I know as I've lived through my life, I know I've followed my heart I've always attempted to follow my heart. No matter what I was facing, I tried to follow my heart. Many times I did. And the times that I didn't, nature taught me, get your ass back on the road again where you belong. And I got back on, which is a blessing. And as I matured, I didn't need nature to get involved too much because my mama used to say, if you can't hear me, you can feel me. Well, I felt enough of nature to know I better stay where I am. My brother, OrisaGbemi, I want to thank you for all that you do. I want to thank you for inviting me on your program. I want to tell T and Chachita and Nkosi and all those that are on board, I want to thank you for taking this time, because to me, the most precious thing that you have as a human, as I've come to my age now where I am, I can tell you the most precious thing you have is time. Don't waste it. That's why we say pay attention, because your attention is payment. It's a currency. And I say, don't waste it. When I was with Dr. Clark, I once told him, Dr. Clark, I could never pay you back for all that you've done for me. And he said, Booker T, you're right. You can't, because you ain't got that much money. But he said, you can pay me back by doing for others what I've done for you. And so my brother OrisaGbemi, my being on this program with our family, gives me a chance to thank Dr. Clark for what he did for me, if I could in any way do it for you. And this is all we can do to honor those that came before us. It doesn't make a difference. You can name streets after somebody. You can name schools after somebody. You can put their faces on stamps. The only way we can honor Dr. King is to keep his work going. The only way we can honor Malcolm X is to continue our work by any means necessary. The only way we can honor anybody that we honor so much is to continue their work. And so this work that I choose to do is in continuance of all the great things that Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Asa Hilliard, all of them invested in me as I was growing as a young brother out on the block, looking for my divine destiny. And so I thank you for this opportunity, my brother. And I thank all of you who have taken this time to be with us, because pay attention. Okay. That's a currency. It's the most valuable thing. You can make all the money in the world, lose it tomorrow, as a lot of people are doing right now. You can lose it all, but tomorrow you can make more money. You can build 20 houses. They all can catch fire. You can build another one the next day. But you'll never have another April 21st, 2025 again. How you spent that day, you can't get back. Don't waste your time. Don't work when you play, and don't play when you work, because you need to play. You need to enjoy life, because that's another thing. Our young people look at us and they say, well, damn, every time I'm around you, you teach good stuff, but man, you seem so sad. Why do I want to be sad? Life was never meant to be like. Now, they made life like this, but the Creator did not create us for us to have to go through this. So it's our job to make it better for our children. I don't pay back. I pay forward. What I do through my ancestors for the children who are yet to be born. And my final question is, family, what do you want the children who are going to be alive in April of 2125, 100 years from now? What do you want them to say about us? They won't know us. They don't know us. They'll know us possibly by name being handed down as we hand down Malcolm's name, Martin Luther King's name, but they won't know us. I taught Malcolm X to children whose parents weren't alive when Malcolm was alive. What do I tell those children about Malcolm X that the books and the movies haven't told them? I tell them about his courage. I tell them about his work ethic. I tell them that his wife, Dr. Betty Shabazz, said that he used to walk even in the house like he was moving to something to do. Even when he was in casual mode, he was still moving with intention. That's what I want them to know. That's what Malcolm had, a work ethic. And he wanted to do the job right. And no matter what, he told the truth to his best, no matter what. And it was him who said, sometimes the price of freedom is death. Once you lose your fear of death, those who would wish to oppress you don't have a bargaining chip with you. Because your greatest barter between people is your life. And Malcolm said one of the most dangerous things to do is to mess with someone who ain't afraid to die. Because he has nothing or she has nothing to lose. But since you're so busy, you do. Malcolm said, and if you do come for me, don't miss. Because I guarantee you, I won't miss you.
And if you didn't know, even from the realm of the ancestors, because if I got anything to say about it, Star Seeds is about Malik and Amaru, which is also a homage to the Honorable El Hajj Malcolm X with Malik, and also Amaru homage to, shout out to Tupac Amaru Shakur. So yeah, we always gonna honor and reverence the ancestors. And man, this has been, shout out to T Wriggles. Like, yeah, I'll never forget this night either, because this was special. Like, the ancestors, they came and they let everybody in the world know, like, we here now. Like, this is real. Like, I love it. I love it, man. I can't thank you enough, Professor Kaba. Like, for real, it's a dream come true, man. I told people, like, off air, and I said, because I feel like this episode is just one of them ones. But like, in my life, I feel like I went through so much bullshit. Like, I was Kepara. I am Kepara, you know, and I'm serious about this, like, for real, by any means necessary. And I know, like, nobody knows what somebody else has been through. And to go through the diamonds and like how the pressure, you know what I'm saying? But one thing about me, like, I came from a family of sharks, lions, you call it, like, it's whatever. So it's like, you know, we know how to move though. And we move like echolocation, like dolphins. You know, we move, you know, masterfully. Very methodical, you know. So it's like, but the way it all coagulates, you know, you couldn't even write a script of how it just happens. But just know it does happen. You know, we're here now.
Oh yeah. It's mer. It's mer. What you just said is mer. It all comes together, but you can't explain how it happened. It just happens. You don't try to explain it. You just live it. You go on to your next thing. You flow like water. Flow like the Nun. Move through it. Deal with it. It's not what happens to you that's important. It's how you react to what happens to
you. Yep. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, we had another classic. This is definitely a classic. Certified replay. I appreciate you, Nkosi. Shout out to the tribe, man. Shout out to you, Professor Kaba. We'll have to get into it another time, but there's a lot of things coming up. Shout out to the project with Amadeus Christ, Heavy as the Crown. Another one coming. Shout out to the new Hidden Colors. I don't know how many people know that one's coming. Shout out to, you know, what you're working on with bringing the knowledge on another level to the community. So, man, whatever I could do, I'm always here. I'm down 10 toes, ready to go. And I appreciate you, man.
Well, I just want to tell the community to go to my website, www.kabakamene.com. My Instagram and my website has all of my books. It has all of my quick webinars, teaching methodologies, webinars. It has materials that you can download my free e-course and study guide that backs up a lot of what I say, if not all of what I say. My Instagram page, Kaba Kamene, I use as my community bulletin board to let you know where I'm going. I post up different things like, posting up this activity tonight. So we just try to put it all together so that the community knows what's going on. And I'd like to tell you something that we don't always tell each other. I'd like to let you know how much I love you and how much I respect you and honor you, and that we're going to make it happen. Let the children know it's going to be all right. It may seem a little crazy out here now, but out of the chaos comes the order.
Yes, sir.
And we have always come true. We've always come through in history. Always come through in history. Everywhere you look, even on the plantation, when everything went bad, we made it right. It's just a phenomenal story about us. That's why we still here, because the Creator realized all power to the people. It's just the way it is. So thanks again, family. I look forward to the future.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you. Love you too, Professor Kaba. Love you like my second papa, man. We're gonna make it do what it do. I say try, man. This has been a classic, man. I give thanks, homage to the all powerful mighty ancestors. Shout out to my Baba OrisaGbemi. I feel like him and Shango, Oya, all the days and lectures, everybody was here tonight. Boy, we had a block party in heaven tonight. So shout out to the spiritual guys that was here with us, and shout out to the guys, the great God in heaven. I give thanks, Professor Kaba. We out, family. Peace. I see you. Odabo.
Ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé ṣàpò ìyàpọ̀ tẹ́ǹtì ẹni takísà ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo ṣe ní gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́. Forsake not your ancestors and praise your.
Yeah, that was a class.